We know that 3 hours is a long time. Now, I'm a nerd. I could listen to all these people for 3 hours and not blink. But I know some of you have other things you got to get to, so you're not hurting anybody's feelings. Please feel free to come and go as you need to. And I think everybody's aware of the schedule. We'll talk about that schedule here in a second. So I think we're ready to start now, and I want to welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to the University of Houston, Victoria. My name is Woodrow Wilson Wagner, and it's my privilege to serve as the Director of Strategic Initiatives here at the University of Houston, Victoria. What is the strategic initiative? Well, one of those things is civic engagement. And we are so proud here at UHV to have a very vigorous commitment to civic engagement. We want our students, you'll meet some of our students tonight, to be engaged, but we also want our community to be engaged. And we want to be a hub that connects the community with the students, with the faculty, and everybody trying to get to the point of community engagement. But tonight, really, it's about one word: knowledge. Specifically, we want to diffuse knowledge. And it was our first president, George Washington, who famously said, "Promote then as an object of primary importance institutions for the general diffusion of knowledge. It is essential that public opinion be enlightened." Ladies and gentlemen, here in this place of Victoria, that is our commitment tonight. Here in this place of Victoria, we want to talk about the future of our city and the community. We want to talk about the future educational opportunities for our children. We certainly want to talk about new projects that are out there. Pros, the cons, all the things that we want to know as taxpayers. But most of all, we want to promote a sense of active citizenship and civic engagement. That is the lifeblood of our very democracy. And the fact that all of you are here, and you could be doing a lot of other things tonight, right? But you chose to come here, speaks to the fact that you do care. You want Victoria to thrive and to grow. So I want to thank you all so much for spending this time with us tonight. So let's get to it. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce our city manager, Mr. Jesus Garza, and he's going to talk about Proposition A. And he has a presentation, after which you'll have the opportunity to ask some questions, and some of those questions we already have in. If you haven't done so already, the League of Women Voters have cards that you can fill out, and they're color-coded based on the thing you want to ask a question. I think Jules is holding up one of those cards right now. So feel free if you'd like to. Now, the key phrase I'm going to be using a lot tonight is "if time allows," right? Understand that we have 2 more debates, and then we have the mayoral candidate. So we have a lot to get to. So if we're not able to get to every single question, I know the candidates would be probably more than happy to stay afterwards, answer your question, or you could email them and answer your question. Well, we're going to obviously try to answer as many of those questions here tonight. So after our city manager, we'll have a debate between the 2 candidates for District 6. District 6 at 6 o'clock, right? And then District 7 at 7 o'clock, the 3 candidates for that. And then we'll close thing with one of our mayoral candidates at 8 o'clock. And again, if you have to come and go, please don't worry. We totally get it, and that's totally fine and acceptable. All right, enough talking from me. Let's now hear from our city manager, Mr. Jesus Garza, who is going to give us more information about Proposition A. And as you all give him a round of applause, I'm going to transition to his PowerPoint.
Good afternoon. Okay. Can you hear me? Excellent. Yes. Thank you. That's the spirit. I need to drink some water or else I won't make it. Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation to be part of tonight's event. We certainly take advantage of these opportunities as much as we can because it is important for us that everyone be as educated as possible as it relates to this project that I'm here to talk about, which of course is a renovation and expansion of our community center. And I'm going to go through this quickly because I do want to make sure that I get to all the questions, because at the end of the day, my objective is to ensure that you walk out of here knowing as much as possible about this project, because an informed voter is a better voter, right? And so regardless of your opinion on this project, we want to make sure that you understand what the facts are so you can make an informed decision. So really quickly, a little bit of background. So this facility was built in the mid-60s, and there were some improvements that kind of went into it for about a 10-year period after that. So it's been over 50 years that there has been any sort of major renovation or expansion to this facility. And so we very quickly realized that there was some missed opportunities with this facility a couple of years ago when the city started to basically do a citywide facility master plan. And the first priority in that plan was the public safety headquarters building that's going up on Main Street. Many of you have probably seen it, which by the way, it's coming in under budget to about the tune of about $2 million. So good news with that project. But then the next one that rose to the top was the community center, because we know that there are some limitations and some missed opportunities here, such as maybe we're missing opportunities to host multiple events at the same time, which is a missed opportunity for revenue, not only directly to the city and the venue, but of course from an economic impact standpoint. Maybe we're missing opportunities from not being able to attract certain events that we just currently cannot, because we just don't have the facility to do so, right? And so it aligned perfectly well. It aligned perfectly with the Growing Victoria campaign that the city launched just a few months ago as well. Because we do have a challenge in our community that we're just not growing. And there is a positive correlation between growth and of course the revenue that we bring in. And many of you are aware of challenges that we have with recruiting and retaining employees as an example. Well, we're not gonna be able to retain and recruit employees if we don't have more money to do that. And we have more money to do that if our tax base grows. But our tax base isn't gonna grow if our community doesn't offer the quality of life amenities that a community needs in order for it to grow. And so this fell nicely within that as well. So like any facility master plan, it started with an assessment of the current facility, not only physically, but also operationally. What are some limitations that it has that prevents us from achieving what I described, multiple events at the same time, or events that we're currently not hosting? And some of that was kind of visible right away, right? We have same restrooms that are utilized by multiple venues or spaces within the facility. There's an issue with technology. There's an issue with, as an example, the current location inside the dome makes it very difficult to actually have a large event in the arena, the current arena, at the same time, because that stage is accessed through the back. Just something so small, but that it creates an obstacle to having multiple large events that have nothing to do with each other going on at the same time. And then of course the existing arena has some limitations because it's got a dirt floor, it's not air conditioned, it's not wide enough to be able to attract a rodeo or a horse cutting event. There's just a lot of issues there. In order to help fine tune that, we established a steering committee that included some stakeholders. These stakeholders included folks that obviously run the facility, but also from users of the facility. So people representing the livestock show as an example, people representing other high-profile events like the Home and Garden Show, Comic-Con. We wanted to really get a good mix of people around the table as part of this committee to help drive and solidify what are the goals and the objectives, what are the challenges, so on and so forth. But more importantly, we actually had a public input process. We had a community survey that basically validated what I already described. The top left shows two bar charts that outshine the others. That question was, what are the types of events that you'd like to see at the facility that currently it does not host? And major concerts and rodeos rose to the top. And so it was good that this survey basically validated what some of the sentiment was from the committee. And what also came out of this was this realization that the public also recognized that the current arena in its current form is a limitation and needs improvement. So many of the written comments that you see on the left-hand side centered around that arena. And so ultimately, there was a recommendation that was made by the consultant populace alongside the steering committee that basically recommended this site plan. For full disclosure, for the scope of the project that I'm here to talk about, it does not include the baseball field. So ignore the baseball fields. That's not what we're proposing that we tackle right now. Right now, we're centered and focused on the community center. That's a lot of centers in that sentence. But that's what we're focused on right now. And so what's in yellow are basically new facilities. And so of course the one that sticks out right away is a large rectangle right behind the community center. That would be a new 3,000 seat covered arena. And I'll get to what that could look like here in a second. As well as potentially looking at some entrances to some of the other existing spaces. One of the biggest elements of the renovation to the existing space is converting the existing rectangular dirt arena into a usable air-conditioned space. So remove the dirt, make it concrete, put air condition, basically convert it into a new expo hall. And I'll show you what that could look like here in a second. Other site improvements would center around parking. That rose to the top through the community process. There's not enough parking spaces. So even where this shows the carnival, for example, is a parking lot that currently doesn't exist. And so this plan, even what's labeled as number 9 on the bottom right, is a new parking lot as well. So there's a lot of site improvements that's included in the scope of this project. I mentioned the different entrances. So if the goal is to have multiple events at the same time, it would make sense to have multiple entrances to help facilitate this. So what's in red would be the entrance that we going through now, which is the main entrance to the community center. And then if you went around the corner, it could get you into the new expo hall, which again is the existing arena. And then if you kept going, it would get you into the new arena. This is just another visual aid of that. I've joked in all the private meetings that I've had with different community groups, and so I'll make the joke with you too, that the mountains in the back are not part of the scope of this project. It was just too cost prohibitive to do that, so I'm sorry to disappoint. So this is what reprogramming of the existing facility could look like. And so of course, again, the thing that sticks out is of course the fact that we've now formalized the utilization of the existing square footage of the existing arena into an expo hall. With its own entrance, which you can see on the right-hand side, which provides an opportunity for this space to have its own restroom, its own concession stand, its own ticketing office, so that again, you can have an event here while never having to go into the space that is utilized by the Dome or by any of the breakout rooms that are part of the annex. That's the biggest thing that sticks out from this. The second thing is that we've relocated the office and the stage that's in the Dome. Currently the office is on the right-hand side where it says stage. We've relocated that to the front of the facility, which makes sense. But that provided an opportunity to move the stage. This alleviates a very basic issue that was identified during the process, because now the stage can be accessed from the back or from the outside without impeding on any other event space. That then provides an opportunity to create a pedestrian walkway between the Dome and the new expo hall for any event that necessitates setting up booths in both spaces. So many of you have probably been to the Home and Garden Show as an example, or another event where you have to walk through a narrow walkway to get to the existing arena, and it's not the most welcoming experience because it wasn't designed for that purpose. So this would alleviate that. That would hopefully help our existing events grow, but hopefully be able to attract more events because now we have more air-conditioned space for booths. This is a rendering of what the Dome could look like. One of the things that came out of the process was, well, what about sports? What about athletics? And so we basically suggested and said, okay, in the space that's labeled as Expo Hall East and Expo Hall West, what could we fit as it relates to athletic courts? And so this kind of shows that we could fit 3 basketball courts, you could fit 4 volleyball courts, you could fit pickleball courts. There would be opportunity for multi-purpose there. Someone's gonna have to tell me what time it is. What time is it? 5:40?
5:44.
5:44.
You
Okay,
want me
perfect.
to ring the bell when you're over?
No, I'm good. I'll be quick. I'm just, I can talk for an hour, so I just want to make sure I leave time for questions. So anyway, this is accounting for a multi-purpose that also includes courts. But to be clear, and this is what a rendering for what it could look like if it's set up for basketball, this is strictly for recreational sports. There's a limitation with the height of the ceiling of the existing arena, and you can kind of get a glimpse of it even in this rendering here. So that would preclude and prevent this space from being utilized for UIL high school sports, for college sports. That's not what the intended purpose of having courts here would be. So I want to make that very clear. This is for recreational sports and for youth sports. We would be able to host youth tournaments because their height clearance on the roof isn't as great as an adult sport, right? So we want to make that very clear. But there's still a need for a recreational athletic facility like this. So for example, our Parks and Recreation Department, if we had this facility, could help organize basketball tournaments in the summer. Could help organize a midnight basketball league. I mean, there's just so many different things that could happen if we had the space that we just currently don't. These are just some other examples of what that square footage could be utilized for. The middle one represents what almost basically a banquet style. So if we wanted to have a wedding or a quinceañera that would fit over 900 people, now we would have the space to do that. And if you're wondering, do people have those? They do. We actually yield those phone calls at the community center of people asking. I don't know where they find these people, but it happens. And this is a rendering of what that could look like. And these are just some renderings of what the entrances could look like. Obviously, we want to make sure that it's a upgraded feel of sophistication, right, to the facility with the entrances and the experience that anybody would have visiting it. I enjoy the fact that they incorporated the V into the design of the entrances. This is what the entrance would look like for the expo hall. I want to make clear that the carnival is not inside the expo hall. It's a reflection of the carnival that's across the street from this entrance. And then we get to the entrance to the arena, which I have some renderings to share with you on those as well. As I mentioned, it's a 3,000 seat arena. The goals laid out by the committee, as this was an ongoing plan, was wanting to make sure that we had a facility that ultimately resulted in the largest arena in the region. The committee felt very strongly that Victoria is the largest city in the region. We ought to have the largest arena in the region, not only in its size, but also in its sophistication of design and the level of comfort and the experience that you would have attending this facility. So as an example, the way that the seats potentially would be designed would be in a very permanent manner, as well as seats with back support, right? So something as simple as ensuring that there's seats with back support enhances and elevates, right, the experience that somebody has going to this facility, because it's better, in theory, than just a traditional portable metal bleacher, right, that is maybe not as comfortable, right? So again, everything about this facility was on purpose trying to enhance for it to be the best arena in the region. I mentioned that it wasn't only rodeos that people wanted to see more of, it was also concerts. And so this layout here shows you what that could look like. But of course, this isn't just for concerts. This could be graduation, as an example. Or it could be a forum like this, you know, that attracts 3,000 people, right? So there's a lot of opportunity here with the multi-purpose utilization aspect of it. And this is what that could look like. As I'm showing you these renderings, by the way, these are just concepts. So ultimately, if this project proceeds, there'd be a more robust, comprehensive design process that would fine-tune all of the details. So it may or may not look exactly like this, but this gives us an idea as to what's possible. And so ultimately, we get to the cost breakdown. This exact same slide is the same one that was shared with City Council, because we were being 100% forward, transparent, whatever word you want to use, with how we're proposing to pay for this. And so ultimately, we've prepared a budget that can go up to $35 million to go towards this project. It's a very conservative budget. It may or may not cost that much, but obviously we're in an environment where there's a lot of things outside of our control that could impact the cost of construction, right? And so I'll focus on the red portion of this, because that's in part what the venue tax is about, which is on the ballot in May. And there's 50 million of this that we're proposing or recommending come from a combination of hotel occupancy tax dollars, existing and new, as well as the venue tax that's on the ballot in May. And so currently, you know, we all visit hotels, we pay these taxes, but currently in Victoria, we collect about $2 million every year in hotel tax revenue. And so we're proposing utilizing some of that to help serve the debt service that it would cost to go towards this project. Victoria County is pursuing a countywide hotel-motel tax at the legislature. They've committed some funds towards this project. And then we've got the two new elements at the bottom right, which is the new hotel venue tax and a new motor vehicle rental tax. The new venue tax is being recommended at 2% and the motor vehicle tax at 5%. Those two alone represent 11 million out of that 15 million. Now, obviously, that still leaves us a gap, right? And so the next big chunk comes from certificates of obligation. I've learned through these meetings that a lot of folks don't realize that the city issues debt every year for large capital projects as part of just our normal capital improvement plan. The city's not like the school district in that the school district obviously has to go to the voters to issue any kind of debt. We're different. Cities have an opportunity and the ability to issue debt for large capital projects just as a part of just our normal business practice. So what we're suggesting with these $15 million in COs is basically utilizing $15 million in COs that we already have available or that are becoming available over the next few years because of our ability to pay off debt. So basically we're finishing paying off some debt, which creates some debt capacity, and that's what we're recommending 15 million of that be utilized for this project. So to be clear, this isn't new debt in addition to any debt that we have now. It would basically be debt that we would encumber as we finish paying that off over the next several years. And we have, and to be clear, we have enough debt freeing up over the next 5 years that would allow us to do this while also continuing to invest in streets. So for example, the next 5-year planning window for streets has us finally addressing North Street, or beginning to, as well as Guy Grant, which were two large thoroughfare projects that were very important to the mayor and city council. And so we are able to walk and chew gum at the same time over the next 5 years, even though we're recommending utilizing $15 million for this project. And then we would need to partner with our Sales Tax Development Corporation to access some cash up front that we would need to, for example, hire the architect. It obviously wouldn't make sense, right, to issue debt to pay for a professional service, right? So that's where the Sales Tax Development Corporation would come in. What time is it? I'm finishing up. So venue taxes in Texas is a very common thing. I mentioned that for projects like this, it makes sense, right? And so I ask you to consider the idea that if there's going to be a facility in our community that is utilized by both residents and visitors, does it make sense to have residents bear 100% of the expense of that project? And so state law has this option for cities to consider that helps spread that out, right? And so that's what we're recommending. We're recommending the venue tax so that people staying in hotels or folks running vehicles can pay towards a portion of the cost of this project, which, as I mentioned, would be $11 million out of the 35. This is what the language would be on the ballot. It's pretty straightforward. It tells you very specifically that it's 2% for hotels, 5% for motor vehicles, and that it's for the venue project, which is the community center project. If this is successful in May, we would start design in June, and it's about a 6-month design process. Our goal would be to start construction in March of 2026, shortly after the 2026 livestock show, with substantial completion in time for the 2027 livestock show. And so with that, I'll entertain questions for 10 minutes.
Thank you so much. Let's hear it for Jesus Garza, our city manager. While he gets some water, I'm going to introduce our moderators for this evening. Asking a question first will be the managing editor of the Victoria Advocate, Mr. Sean Akers. So Sean, if you want to go ahead and go to the podium and ask your question for Mr. Garza. Or you could just take this.
I don't want to get out of your camera side.
Mr. Garza, I just want to thank you for what you and the city planners have done to make this go forward, this community center initiative go forward. Just to reiterate a couple of things. Why is it best for people to vote yes on Proposition A? And also, what is the expected income from the proposed venue tax on hotel occupancy and rental cars?
Sure. So I can't answer your first question. You'd have to ask somebody that's not a city official like I am, you know, to explain why somebody should vote for it. As it relates to your second question, I mentioned that the 2% venue tax and the 5 motor vehicle tax would help us achieve $11 million. Annualized though, we're estimating that the 2% for hotels would bring in about $500,000 a year, and the motor vehicle tax would bring in about $250,000 a year. Combined, that $750,000 a year would help pay the debt service for up to $11 million. So that's how we kind of calculate that, right? We're looking at how much money are we bringing in annually, and basically how much debt could that annual revenue pay for, right? And so that $750,000 that those two things would bring in annually would yield us about $11 million when we issue the revenue bonds for the project.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Akers. Our second moderator this evening is the president of the all-new rejuvenated League of Women Voters. Let's hear it for them. So glad the League is with us. Miss Glenda Nickel. Glenda?
Thank you, Woodrow. Yes, I want to shout out to our members today. It's proud to be a part of the League of Women Voters, and we're excited to be here tonight. Yes, Mr. Garza, thank you. I had a question about the other proposed way you're going to be paying for this, and I think you answered that. But I had a question about how you achieve what data was used to show how much you're going to be generating from the hotel and the rental car. Where did you get that data from?
So, as I mentioned earlier, we currently collect about $2 million in hotel occupancy tax. And so right now when somebody stays in hotels in Victoria, they're paying 13%. 7% of that stays with us, 6% goes to the state. And so we can very clearly, very easily calculate how much 2% would generate because we already collect a hotel motel tax, right? So that's how we calculate that would equate to about $500,000. As it relates to the motor vehicle tax, I guess one of the pros of only having one company in town was that we only had to speak with one CFO at one company. And so we had meetings with the CFO of Enterprise on several occasions to have them help us figure out and calculate how much money that 5% would bring in. This is obviously not a new concept for them. Venue taxes like this exist all over the state. And so that conversation with them was very easy because they're used to it. And so that's how we ended up with the calculation of $250,000 in annual revenue for the car rental tax.
Thank you, sir. Another one of our moderators is one of our UHV students, a criminal justice major who's a senior, Miss Caitlin Lopez. Caitlin.
Super excited to be representing UHV student population. My question for you is, how did you decide on percentage of rental cars in hotel stays, and why don't hotel stays have a higher percentage?
So the state law that stipulates using venue taxes caps the venue tax at 2%. And that same law caps the motor vehicle tax at 5%. And so the percentages that we came up with for each were basically stemming from the parameters laid out in state law for communities that pursue the venue tax. As it relates to your second question about the...
Might get the hotel be higher percentage.
Right.
The hotel
There's
stays.
a state law that caps hotel occupancy taxes at 17%. As I mentioned, right now it's 13%. And so our 2% would put us at 15%. I mentioned the county's pursuing a countywide hotel motel tax at the legislative level. That would add another 2% to that, which would get us to 17%. And if that makes you wonder, what do hoteliers think? They're supportive. So both the county judge and I have met with hotel owners and managers over the last year on several occasions to keep them updated on the progress of what we're trying to do. And they're all very supportive because they understand the benefit that this could be to them in the long run, right? If there are more people visiting our community, that's more business for them. Several of them own hotels in other communities that have pursued similar projects, so they were even able to speak themselves about the benefit that they experienced in those communities after a few years of a project like this taking place. But that's answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank our city manager, Mr. Jesus Garza. And Mr. Garza, I'm sure if citizens have follow-ups, they can contact you and they want to see any of this information. Is this on the website?
Yes, thank you for that. So I was going to mention, for anybody tuning in or if you're interested, victoriatx.gov/community center, you can find an FAQ document in there as well as even a prompt to submit a question online. We of course have brochures that were distributed at the front. And so please feel free to reach out through that space or even just send us an email or however you want to do it. I mean, again, our objective is to make sure people understand what it is and what it isn't so that you can make an informed decision.
Thank you so much for coming. Let's give him a hand. Thank you. We are now going to transition to our first debate for school board. So I would ask the District 6 candidates to please come forward. We're going to reset the stage and get ready for that. Thank you.
He asked me if the mics were on.
All right, we're going to transition now to our school board debates. And in just a moment, I'm going to introduce our candidates. Let me pull that up for us. Absolutely. All right, so one of the first questions I get is, Woodrow, where is District 6? So for your convenience, we've provided this lovely map. Now you might have to get out your glasses, but I think you get a general sense of what constitutes District 6. So this is the constituency we're talking about. And I know some of you live in this shaded area, so this is very, very important to you. Our candidates tonight are Miss Margaret Pruitt and Mr. Andy Rockovic. And both of them are here to debate, and we're going to try to do so as civilly and as formatively as we can. So the basic rules are each candidate's going to have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. And Ms. Cole is going to keep careful time, and she's got a bell, so do not mess with her. So 2 minutes for the opening statements, and then we're going to have our moderators alternate to ask questions. The first set of questions will come from people who submitted questions to Victoria Advocate and to UHB, and then we'll have the questions that have come from tonight and also online. And we've got Desiree over there to monitor those online questions as well. So you'll have a minute, or you'll have 2 minutes to answer those questions, and then if you feel the need for rebuttal at the moderator's discretion, we can do that if that comes up. All right, so let me welcome again our first moderator to ask questions, Mr. Sean Akers, representing the Victoria Advocate. Oh, I'm sorry. They're going to do opening statements. So, Ms. Pruitt, if you'd like to start with your opening statement.
Hello, my name is Margaret Pruitt. I do want to reiterate a thank you to everyone who made this evening possible. I know it takes a lot of planning, and it's greatly appreciated. My name is Margaret Pruitt. I currently serve as the Vice President for the VISD School Board. I am running for re-election because I have a lifelong passion for education, and I want all Victoria students to have a successful and bright future. So my love for education started at the age of 5. When I started in kindergarten, I had an amazing kindergarten teacher, Miss Chavera, and she instilled in me a love of learning. So I took that with me, and when I was a senior in high school, I actually helped students that couldn't pass what was then the TOS, which is now the STAR test, and tutored them. And then I went in to work for Sinton ISD when I graduated from high school. When I got married in 1994, I moved to Victoria and was employed by the ISD. And I worked with special education, I worked with the English as a second language, and I worked with the bilingual programs. Then my children went into education in VISD, and I was a very involved parent. I cut, I laminated, I made copies, whatever they needed me to do to make their job easier. And then in 2016, I was elected to the VISD School Board and was honored in serving my community in this capacity. While on the board, I have attended several trainings, from TEA trainings to Lone Star governance trainings, TASB conferences and TASA conferences as well. I have earned over 350 continuing education hours, and I currently serve and have been elected to be the Region 3 Director for the Texas Association of School Boards. So I want... Sorry.
All right, Ms. Pruitt, thank you. See, Ms. Cole isn't messing around with that. Okay. All right.
Well, I didn't know what the red or the green or any of that meant, so I was like, I'm not sure what that
So
that
let's
means,
just
so.
explain it real
Yes.
quick. So
Sorry.
we've got, and I'm sorry about that, Margaret. We've
Sure,
got
that's okay.
green for
Go.
keep talking, go. And then there's yellow for you're running out of time, kind of wrap it up.
30 seconds left.
30 seconds. And then there's red, which means, stop.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then there's the bell. Really. All right, thank you, Margaret. Let's go now to Andy. Andy?
All right, guys, my name's Andrew Rokovich. I'm running for VISD because a lot of stuff needs to be brought to y'all's attention. VISD says kids are more than just a test score, and that's very true. But when every score is failing, someone has to answer for it. VISD has lost students every single year since 2016. To date, that's 1,500 students gone from VISD, and the average as of last year is 500 per year leaving VISD. And who can blame them? And who should we blame? Academically, in 2016, we were ranked in the top 50% when Margaret took office. Today, we're ranked in the bottom 10% of all schools in Texas. Yet we hear excuses like kids are more than test scores and how unfunded mandates are killing us, instead of the real reasons and the real solutions. The truth is, when our test scores are this bad across every grade and every subject, we are failing an entire generation of kids. The state has never sent a mandate that the majority of schools in this state are not already providing. Who do we hold accountable when VISD has fallen behind the entire state? My opponent has supported policies that padded scores with meaningless career readiness credits like floral design. Programs like the Bridge program have burned over $500,000 per year to get 7 teachers accredited and spend $110,000 on administration for the same program. The numbers don't lie, and neither will I. They say the budget at VISD is $140 million. But what's the real spending? Last year was over $202 million. That's $17,000 per student with some of the worst results in Texas. What we have isn't a leadership, it's a spend problem. And our kids can't afford another year of it. It's time to face facts. We're not here to sugarcoat it. I'm here to fix it. On May 3rd, I hope that you guys will vote on your conscience and vote what's best for VISD. And that is me, Andrew Rokovich. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. We're now going to move to our first question. And Andy, I don't know if you want the mic now or you want to stay there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever works for you. We'll just use the mic. So our first question is going to be asked by Caitlin Lopez.
That's for me.
And it's going to be for you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. What is your stance on expanding or limiting advanced placement, dual credit, or career and technical education programs? Excuse me.
Well, my stance would be to increase it, but increase it for things that matter. I just alluded to the fact that we have a career and college-ready score that's based upon floral design. I'm someone that's all for career-ready and college-ready. However, it has to be something pertinent, right? So we can't just rely on any and every class. We need to rely on what will help our community. And what our community is in need for right now is something that our college is embracing, and that's agriculture. So I think improving our readiness needs to be very focused on what our kids can actually achieve, and not just doing it for the purpose of a number to get our scores up compared to other schools. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but TEA has been involved in a big lawsuit about how all of these scores have been fudged, specifically by VISD. When a school district like VISD takes our career numbers and artificially inflates them, it harms other schools. It harms other districts. And those districts have taken it upon themselves to sue the TEA. So that schools like VISD cannot continue to inflate their number to bring others down. So I am 100% for us embracing programs that will help our students, but I'm also very much convinced that for the past 10 years, every program that has been implemented has been done so without the proper intentions and without the proper oversight.
All right, Ms. Pruitt, same question. And if you want to repeat the question for her.
What is your stance on expanding or limiting advanced placement, dual credit, or career and technical education programs?
So I don't see why you would want to limit that. And we actually have increased the number of students in dual credit and in AP classes. So we're going that way, we're going forward. As far as CTE, we have talked to our community and our community businesses and asked them, what is your need? What do you need from VISD? What are we missing? What do we need? What can we do? What CTE classes do we need to bring to VISD? And so I'm going to share with you a couple of things. There was a release from VISD today. And we have had children receive certificates in American welding. We had 42 of them. We had 93 in entrepreneurship, and small businesses. We've had 37 in floral design because our flower establishments need someone who can make flower arrangements for funerals, weddings, whatever there is. We have also had some in certified associate for visual design using Adobe Photoshop, 46. We have had 34 get something in graphic design. So it's not just floral. Here's the release that you can look at that will come out. And so again, we are growing. We are getting CTE certificates that the community is asking for. So, thank you.
Thank you. Optional rebuttal, Andy, 1 minute.
Yeah, that's completely incorrect. Our numbers for college crossover classes have gone down almost every year in your tenure. Of the 900 students in VISD last year that took a career-ready class, over 300 of them were in floral design, and almost 300 of them were in entrepreneurial leadership. Those classes are manufactured. They're not welding. Last year on welding, it was actually in the teens, not in the 40s. We need to focus on what our students can actually be prepared for a career and a future, not entrepreneurship in college or in high school. That is a long, in-depth class that no one in high school can come out and say they can start a business because of it. Just like floral design. Over 300 students in floral design in VISD, and we have 2 floral shops in town.
Okay, Ms. Pruitt, anything to add?
So I was at the market days that Mother Cluckers put on downtown, and there was a little boy, a junior in high school, and he has his own business. He creates 3D printing things, and he is running that business. He is selling those things to the community, and he said something that was really sweet. He says, I make things for $1 up and up because I want everybody to be able to afford something. And isn't that something to have a junior in high school who is interested in getting his own business going, has a booth at our local market days downtown, and is trying to include everybody from our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go now to our next question. And this is going to be asked by someone we call our online moderator. She's monitoring the chat and making sure we're getting all those comments and questions. I'd like to introduce Ms. Desiree Ferguson, one of our students here at UHB. Let's hear it for her.
Thank you. My question is, with limited resources, how would you prioritize spending in VISD in a transparent and accountable fashion? I'm going to switch that over. Give me a second. Okay. Do you have a basic understanding of the parts of the VISD budget? And if so, can you describe which parts you, as a trustee, would be responsible for approving and monitoring throughout the year? And why the final financial statements show revenues and expenditures in excess of the approved budget amounts?
That's a long question, Margaret. It's on the screen behind you and also
Okay.
here too.
So I do have a basic understanding. I mean, I've been on the board for nearly a decade. I've been through 9 workshops. We have budget workshops every year, 2 or 3 of them, so that we go through the budget. We look at the different parts of it. 85% of our budget is to pay our teachers. So right off the bat, we're going to get our teachers paid. That's the first part. The other parts are nutrition and TRS. So nutrition is not our budget. The nutrition comes from the state, and we cannot touch it. It's for our students to eat. So that comes through our department, finance department, and it goes straight out. It goes out to the nutrition department. The TRS is the same way. Those funds come in, they come through our finance department, and they go out to TRS for our teachers. So it looks like there's more money than we have, but it's not. It's because it's going from one way, one end, and it goes straight out because it is already designated by the state, by the government. That is not something that we set. It's not something that we have any control over. It is the government that sends those funds to us. We funnel it and roll it into the right department, and then we're done with it. What we have to work with is the taxes that we collect, not the value of your home. We don't set that. We set the tax rate. And so those taxes are collected. They go to the state. The state says, you need $6,100 per student to educate them. You made this much money in taxes, and you're short this much money, so the state of Texas will give you that money, and then you have this money to pay your teachers, do whatever you need to educate your students. The problem is it's also based on attendance. So if our students aren't coming to school, we don't get as many funds, but the biggest thing is that they don't get educated. So we try to focus on getting them in class, getting them educated. And yes, the money is important because that's how we pay our teachers, but we want our students educated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Andy, same question.
Yeah, let me start with, absolutely, I have a good understanding of VISD's budget, and let me give you some straight numbers. This is from VISD themselves, okay? These numbers are not made up whatsoever. Last year in 2024, $76.9 million was spent on teacher instruction and salaries. The entire budget was $202 million. For those of you that need to do the math, that's about 40% spent on teachers, not 85 as was just claimed. This is exactly why I'm here. I'm here to clear up this misinformation, this bad data, and the stuff that's been told to you guys for years. It has been incorrect and has been purposely done upon all of you. We need to know where our money is spent and why, and when we are constantly told things that are completely incorrect, we will never be able to accomplish that. Attendance as an issue as our budget, we lose $6,000 per student when we lose one, or when one isn't attending properly. And with all of this talk about vouchers, vouchers in Victoria might equate to about 20 students. 20 students times $6,000. Do you think that will affect our budget of $202 million? Or do you think this is more fluff, more disingenuous roads that we're going to go down, right? Our administration, as of this year, is about to spend $4.9 million on their administration. I have another list right here from the state. Has every school that has 12 to 14,000 students. There's about 18 schools on our school districts on that list. We are the highest paying for the administration on that list, and we are the second to the bottom in achievement and goals. If we do not start addressing this stuff directly with the community and with everyone involved, it will not get fixed. There has not been a year in 10 years that any score VISD has gone up. Not one school, not one metric. We must address this head on, or we will continue down the exact same road.
Ms. Pruitt, rebuttal.
Sure, there is no way of telling where our grades were because TEA had not released them until recently, and so that's a falsehood. The other is that you can go on the website, and our budget is $137 million. We cannot spend more than we have. We cannot go out and get money at the bank for anybody. We have to go to the voters and ask for more money. That's why we do VATREs, that's why we do bonds, because we are not a person, we don't say, hey, I need you to loan me some money over here. We're kind of low. That's not how it works. Everything is state regulated. We have third-party audits that look at our finances, and we have received A's for 25 years. And we've actually received 100s for several years. So we know where our finances are going. If you have questions about the budget, Mr. Randy Myers, Ms. Michelle Yates
Thank you.
at the front office is there to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Andy?
Yeah, absolutely not. Our budget's right here. Anyone that actually does want to see it, this was printed out by VISD. $202 million is what was spent last year. 202, right? These numbers are not made up. She says you can go on your website. However, if you want to find this information on their website, you really have to know how to look. So if anybody does want to know how to decipher their website and get this information, please get with me and I'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we move now to the next question, and Mr. Sean Akers.
Ms. Pruitt, Mr. Rokovich, we appreciate you being here both.
Thank you.
How would you address rising concerns about student behavior and discipline in our schools? Do you support restorative justice practices as a discipline model? Why or why not?
Absolutely not. Restorative policies have really put a giant damper, not just in our school district, but many across the state. Ours has suffered more, but most of our suffering has been from leadership, not so much discipline. But discipline is not about punishment. It's about setting clear expectations and protecting the right of every student to learn in a safe and focused environment. Right now, the VISD environment is breaking down. Teachers are overwhelmed, classrooms are constantly disrupted, and the students who want to learn are suffering because of a handful of students that are allowed to derail instruction day to day due to restorative discipline. Let's be honest. Restorative justice or restorative discipline approach hasn't worked here. Teachers are telling us that they feel powerless. Parents are telling us their kids are scared to go to school, and students themselves are saying they can't concentrate because of the constant chaos in the classroom. This is a failure of leadership and is directly tied to the direction this district has taken under the current board, including Margaret Pruitt's tenure. We need to restore structure and respect our schools. That's why I'm supporting a bring back dedicated alternative school for discipline to VISD. This is not about giving up on our kids. Quite the opposite. Some students need a different setting, more one-on-one support and structured behavioral intervention to succeed. But they can't get that in a traditional classroom, and they certainly can't get it in a system that just cycles them back into the same environment with no accountability.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Pruitt.
So we have DAEP, which is an alternative school for our students who get into discipline issues. They're sent there, and we try to give them guidance and support. We meet with the parents and try to give them tools to be able to support their students at home, their children at home. And we have them go to DAEP where they continue their education so that they're not outside of the classroom. Anytime a child is removed from a classroom, you are affecting their future, their education. And so we do not want to do that. Yes, we do need to discipline and show correctness to those students. However, it is not just us. This has to start at home, and we have VISD Connections who meets with parents and talks to them and gives them guidance on how to be a better dad, to be a more involved mom, whatever it is, to be more involved with your children. And then Ms. Guiaso has started what we're calling the 10 VISD values, and she's really stressing these in schools. And it's excellence, respect, honesty, perseverance, gratitude, responsibility, courage, integrity, accountability, and law abidance and civic duty. So she has rolled this out, or she's going to roll it out. She's been talking to all the school campuses in the district, and we are wanting to show these children as ourselves as an example, but also to have these out where that they can say, am I doing excellence? Am I being respectful? So they can have some of their own responsibility and have their own, trying to think of the word, to have that ownership of their behavior and to learn from that behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Rebuttal?
Well, honestly, I'd like to go back to the bloated administration if I could. You know, she stated that they did a study. I looked into that study. They spent $20,000 to determine if the administration's bloated. Well, I did it this afternoon in about 5 minutes when I looked at the comparative administrations, and I see that we're paying about 15 to 20% more on average per student for our administration compared to any comparable school district, i.e. 12 to 14,000 students. VISD is paying over $400 per student for their administration right now, and the average is closer to $300. But you know, the solution that was arisen by the board was to spend $25,000 to do a study that says we're an A.
Thank you, sir. Margaret?
So we're actually a cap on how much money we can spend at the administration level. It is actually 10% only, and we're actually below that. So if you look at it, there is something in our policy that says we can only spend up to 10% on our administration. As well, Ms. Boyaso has been looking as people retire, because you get to retire at some point in your life and enjoy your time off. And she's looking at those positions as they come up and saying, are we going to absorb those with other people? Do we really need that position at the administrative level? And so we're taking it, or she is, not me. She is taking it on a one-on-one basis. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We move to our next question, and we have Glenda Nickel.
Thank you for both for coming. This is a submitted question from an audience member. It says, can you describe the difference between INS spending and M&O spending funds?
So INS is interest in sinking. That is our debt service. So that is what we collect to pay off our bonds. So right now we're paying off Victoria West and Victoria East Fine Arts Center, I believe, and the Aquatic Center. So those funds that are collected are used for that debt service that we have. It cannot be used for anything else. It cannot. Legally, you cannot use INS, interest in sinking, for anything other than your debt from your bonds. The maintenance and operation, which is M&O, is what we use like you would use for a budget. We have water, we have electricity, we have our teachers, we have our transportation, we have gas, we have lights, those kinds of things, and that's what that part of the budget pays for, and that is the difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Response?
Yeah, I'm going to go to that, but I'm going to go back a little bit too. She made a point to you guys that only 10% of the budget can be used for administration, and that's completely true. However, we only spend 4%, and that's high. The state average is about 3% of your budget for administration. But I do like the idea that the 10% number by the state is out there given as a mandate so that we don't abuse that power. That's the whole reason the 10% exists, not so we can get to 7, 8, or 9. We are at 4, and we are way, way overinflated. As far as our INS debt and the pass-throughs, those are mostly debt. Well, the INS is a debt that the taxpayers have already approved. So it is semi out of the hands of the taxpayers. However, some of the other ones aren't quite as clear as it may be, or may be presented to you, such as water, right? Can we pay for water out of the federal budget for our nutrition? Yes, we actually can. When we need extra for that type or that specific expenditure, can we spend our own? Of course we can add to that budget, right? So to say that because we get $1 million for a program or for an application that costs us $3 million, that doesn't mean money's not fungible. It doesn't mean they can't lower the resources here. Just like the bond they were going to pass for student rate or teacher raises. My concern and the reason I didn't vote for it is because they promised a teacher raise of an X number of percentage, and they said this $10 million would go to the teacher salary budget. However, the teacher salary budget is way more than $10 million. So they could have just lowered their contribution and still been just fine because that money is required for teacher salaries. So this circular logic and the circular talk to our community and not being straight up front honest with us, it's got to end. Our administration is bloated. Yes, it's under 10%, as every district in the state is. We are still on the list of every school district that meets our parameters at the highest for our administration pay.
Thank you, sir. Rebuttal.
I take offense to not being an honest person. I stand here before you and I'm very honest. I'm very transparent. I have put in many hours of my own time to ensure that our students are getting the best education that they can. I fight tooth and nail for teacher increase in pay. I make sure that we are following the law, and I don't see how we can break the law and continue to serve as a board. Thank you.
Nobody said you were breaking the law.
Rebuttal.
Yeah, everything she just said. She's been fighting for teacher pay increase. Has anyone seen a teacher pay increase? She's been fighting for a better outcome of our students. Has anyone seen our scores rise under her tenure? Anyone? I see her husband saying yes. I have the numbers here, right? It's completely incorrect. There has not been a year in 10 years in which our school performance numbers have gone up. There has not been a year in 10 years in which our expenditures have gone down. Now, there has been a raise for teachers in 10 years, but it's been so below the Pell for the rest of the state. We are still at the lowest 20% for teacher pay in the state of Texas. So all of these lovely ideas have equated to naught for our community. I'm here to point that out. I'm here to try and figure out why it's not changing. And it's not going to happen if this whole room and the whole community doesn't get up together and say enough is enough.
All right, thank you, sir. We go to our next question. Caitlin?
In light of Texas Senate Bill 26, how do you think the teacher incentive and retention allotments would impact the recruiting and retention of high-quality teachers in VISD?
Well, I think there's a lot to be said about what could or could not happen with that bill for VISD, but I still think most of it comes back down to what is being done at VISD. Why are teachers leaving? Why are students leaving? Right? The idea of just putting some more money at it isn't going to fix all the issues. And I understand that it's a bit of a disadvantage for us because of rural areas getting more. But the reality is people want to come to VISD and want to teach if they're allowed to teach. And the fact that our scores are so low makes it very clear that teachers' hands are tied. I don't believe that we have a problem in Victoria with bad teachers. I believe we have a problem in Victoria with bad administration and bad policies. We need to untie the hand of the great teachers we have, and then we will attract more great teachers.
Thank you, sir. Margaret?
So a little bit about the teacher incentive allotment. So we just started an application for that. And how that works is that a certain teacher in a certain area would be able to receive more funds if she meets a certain criteria. So we are still working on that. It has just started. It came to us at the last board meeting. And so we hadn't had that before because our teachers said no. They didn't want that. So they've done some more surveys, more research, more questioning, gone to the teachers, and the teachers said, yeah, we'd like to try that. And so they have. I was at a TASB spring meeting, and the Texas Education Agency Commissioner, Mike Morath, was there. And he was talking a lot about that we kind of focus on our first year's teachers. And he says, that's great because you get them here. He says, but we've really got to make sure that we're focusing on our tenure teachers as well. And so he had some ideas and some plans that hopefully he'll share with the state soon. But as well, we have had teacher raises. Very little. We do what we can. This is a legislative state. Reach out to your legislator. I advocate all the time and send emails and letters and say, give us more funds for our teachers. They deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Rebuttal.
We have plenty of funds for our teachers. I could go through program after program in which we could save money to give it back to our teachers. From administration being bloated, we could send $1 million of that back to our teachers. From the $550,000 in the bridge program to get 7 other teachers accredited, we could send that back to our teachers. From the numerous amount of administrators we have in that building, we could send that back to our teachers. The fact that we pay $202 million per year for our students at this point is unacceptable. And the idea that we don't have money in our budget to pay our teachers when we spend less than 40% of our budget. I'm going to say that again. Less than 40% of our budget goes to teachers. While you had someone up here say they don't like being called a liar when they told you it's 85%.
Ms. Pruitt.
Again, it is 85%. You go back and you look at it, you go to our workshops, and I'm not saying that. That is our chief financial officer telling me and showing me the numbers and telling me where they are. We only have as much money as the community is willing to give us in their taxes. And then we do the best that we can to give our students in VISD an edge that they're going to need to compete for jobs and for just a place in this world. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We move on now to our next question. Ms. Desiree Ferguson.
Thank you. How will you ensure that parent and community voices are heard and valued in district decisions?
Does that mean?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so we have, from the very beginning, created task forces, which are made up of community members. We also hold town meetings where the community is invited and are welcome to come and let their voice be heard. We send home surveys. We do all kinds of things. We have plenty of opportunity for our community to have a say in what happens with VISD and in VISD. We value everyone's input, and the parents are the ones that know what their children need. So we want to hear from them. Every month, you're welcome to come and attend a school board meeting. And you can come and speak to us and tell us your concerns, what you'd like us to do at VISD, what your ideas are. We're happy to share. We're happy to hear you share them with us. We also have our administration building where those people are more than happy to answer a question if they can. If they can't, they will find somebody that can answer your questions. So we welcome the voice of our community, and we give them opportunities throughout the year and every month, the third Thursday of the month, to come and have their voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Andy.
Parental involvement is not just helpful, it's essential. When parents are engaged, students do better, teachers feel support, and the schools become stronger. But the sad truth is VISD has spent the last decade shutting parents out of the process. I've given you plenty of examples here tonight. And that's one of the reasons we're in the position we are today. Right now, VISD operates more like a closed-door institution than a community school system. Parents often don't know what's being taught, how decisions are being made, and how they can be heard. That's unacceptable. If you're a parent or a taxpayer in this district, you should never feel like you're outside looking in. Step one is restoring transparency. As a board member, I'll push for public access to curriculum decisions, regular community forums, real-time updates with school policies and performance, and no more closed-door meetings. Parents shouldn't have to dig through red tape and file formal requests to get basic information. I know this firsthand. This is how I got most of this information. The district works for the people, not the other way around. Step two is building actual pathways for involvement. That means creating parent advisory councils at every campus. It means giving families a voice in every form, of school safety to how we use the classroom technology. I will advocate for accessible volunteer opportunities, flexible meeting times, and a better communication tools for the entire district, so that every parent, no matter their work schedule or background, can plug in and be part of the conversation. But it's also about shifting the culture. VISD needs to stop treating parents or parental concerns as a threat Too often we see parents labeled as disruptive simply for asking questions or wanting to know what their kid's being taught. That ends if I'm on the board. We need to treat parents like partners and not problems. And let me be clear, if VISD leadership had listened to the parents during the past decade, we wouldn't be in this mess today. We wouldn't be ranked near the bottom of the state. We wouldn't be watching families flee to private and surrounding schools. And we wouldn't be having to rebuild trust from the start. But we can fix this if we turn the page. I will be the kind of trustee who shows up, listens, and fights to make sure parents have a seat at the table, not just once a year, but in every major decision that affects our schools, because we cannot rebuild VISD without the parents.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Pruitt.
So he made mention of doing things in closed door. Legally, or behind closed doors, legally, there are things that we cannot talk about in front of the public because it has to do with our teachers or something else. So there is legally a reason that we have closed session. That's part of it. And legally, we're supposed to do that. This is a perfect example of having our community and our parents have a voice. They can look at it here, they can send questions, they could have shown up here and talked to me afterwards. So there are ample opportunities for our parents, and I encourage them to take every advantage of them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Rebuttal?
Yeah, of course. So closed door meetings aren't required by law. They are always optional. Always optional. If anyone would like to read the school code on that, it's very clear. The only thing that should be protected in a closed door meeting is someone's name. Did you guys know that they just promoted somebody within to a new role at VISD? All of those discussions were done behind closed doors on whether or not we should raise or what to raise to a current employee. That employee also has the right to say, I don't want a closed door meeting. But those people are never told, do you have the right to say no? It's not going to be closed door. Why would someone want a closed door meeting to talk about his promotion? But we did it because we didn't want the public to know the fact that we're promoting someone even though the superintendent said we won't replace that position. She said, we're going out to find places.
All right, sir. Thank you. All right. We're moving on to the next issue. Mr. Sean Akers.
To both, if the U.S. Department of Education is eliminated, and that's a very real concern at this particular point, how will this affect the power functionality of local school boards like VISD, and what does local control look like to both of you?
Concern is not the word I would use for that. I embrace it. I'm ready for it. I look forward to it. You know, we spend $10 million a year right now on school nutrition for an equitable size district in Texas. And I've done all of this research. For another district that's 13,000 students, they spend about $7 million on their cafeteria functions and their child nutrition. Because we got a federal grant for $10 million, guess how much we spend? So if the Department of Education goes away, that $10 million grant for nutrition will still be $10 million. It just won't have a string tied to it that says we have to spend it for nutrition. So we could take our budget down to about $6 or $7 million, which puts us in line with the rest of the state for child nutrition, and take that $3 million and use it on teacher salaries.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Pruitt.
So, if the Department of Education is eliminated, it will affect our students. We get a lot of federal grants, federal funds, federal monies for a lot of our programs that we offer our students that are their pathway to a future. So it would be a struggle and a challenge, but VISD has had several struggles and challenges, and we have risen and overcome them. I think we'd have to look and see what programs we will be able to continue. And of course, trying to keep the programs that we have, because again, it's for our children, for their future. And I see a lot of the state responsibilities then, it would fall to the state, and hopefully the state legislatures would re-examine and make sure that our education system has enough funds to educate our future, our students.
Thank you, ma'am. And rebuttal, Andy, if you could touch on that, what does local control mean to you?
Well, local controls everything, and the idea that people, including my opponent here, think that we're just going to lose funds because the federal government is going to say you can have it without strings is beyond baffling to me. But it does play right in line with what I've heard from VISD for the past 10 years. I'd be shocked if anyone else in this room knew exactly how much federal money we receive at VISD each year. Well, I tell you, it's $15 million on a $202 million budget. I think, to be honest with you, if we stayed on the budget we had, which was $145 million, we probably would have been fine. So the reality is, could we lose this money? It would be terrible. Are we going to lose it? Absolutely not. It hasn't been proposed by anybody whatsoever in any shape or form. It's just fear-mongering and more misleading to scare our community. Your federal dollars will stay here.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Pruitt.
So we've actually received over 157 million. Let me repeat. $157 million in grants over the last 9 years that I've been on the board. I would love to see where we're going to get $157 million to continue our programs if the Department of Education is closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy? Oh, is that the rebuttal? Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to the next question. And so we're going to start getting some of these audience questions in. We have so many yellow cards. We have questions online. So I'm going to go to Ms. Nickel, and I think, or Sean, we're going to have one of the yellow cards.
I had one question about what about drug education in the school? How important and what is going on with VISD and drug education?
Okay. So we do have different levels of drug education. So there's elementary and middle school and high school. And then if you are interested or looking at people that are vaping, our students are vaping, there is stuff that we have in place to show you videos, education. There's all kinds of resources that we use to teach our children not to do drugs. As a matter of fact, my daughter and my son will not smoke, because when they were in school, that's what they said: do not smoke, do not use drugs. And so we have great programs in place at our district, in our district, for the different levels of education. And of course, something in elementary won't be used in high school, and something in high school is not going to be used in elementary. So it's all relevant. Thank you.
Andy?
Thank you, William. I think it's a big issue, and I think it's following in theme with a lot of things. It's kicked under the rug. I've heard from a lot of parents that their student was passed a vape at school, and their parent or their student partook in that vape. And when it was brought to the attention of VISD refused to basically handle or follow through with punishment, or to even find out if that vape had anything illicit in it. They just were very much okay with the idea that must have been nicotine, and ultimately refused to push the situation further. And I can't tell you without breaking the trust of everything that happened, but I know in my heart the reason that this got kicked under the rug is because it's easier, because they're so afraid to have a student get sent home. So if a student has a vape, we'll just assume it's nicotine and not drugs. But the reality is, it could be drugs, and students could be harmed when you catch a student with a vape and you don't test it. You know, we don't call the authorities and say, I demand this looked into. I want to know what my student had on campus. So I think it's a major issue that doesn't really get the time of day or the light it needs, even by me, I'll admit. It's an epidemic, not just in Victoria, it's an epidemic in the country, and it does need to be addressed. The best way to do that would be together.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Pruitt.
So we have a law that says that if you're caught vaping, you will automatically be withdrawn from the school that you are at, and you will be sent to DAEP. And then there's requirements for the parents to come in and have a meeting. There's a video that you have to watch in order to be able to return to your classroom. First offense is, I believe, 15 days. The next offense that you're caught with a vape is 30 days. And that is a law that was passed to address that. Thank you.
But you still have no idea what's in the vape.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to one of our online viewers' questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Desiree for that.
Thank you. The online parent asked, why aren't students taught basic skills to prepare them for adulthood?
That seems like a open-ended question. I definitely think that that's the goal, and that's what VISD is doing. It's not necessarily accomplishing that goal. You know, fourth grade, for example, fourth grade students at VISD are reading at an average of a first grade level. To me, that's basic. You know, usually when people say we need to learn basic things for our lives, they think of, you know, home economics or balancing a checkbook. But the reality is, if our fourth graders read at a first grade reading level, they're not learning the basics. We continue, not just VISD, but the whole state and most districts continue to teach to a test that's the bare minimum, a test that's designed to let the entire state know, are our students achieving the bare minimum goals? And when we teach our students to achieve the bare minimum, that's exactly what they do. So to me, it's back to a teacher issue and allowing the teachers to teach what they know is proper. I feel, looking around this room, yeah, we're all about the same age group. Every single person in this room had the privilege of a great education. We know what good teachers were. We know how they worked. We know why they worked. We remember them. I imagine there's not a single person in this room who can't say, this was my favorite teacher. This is what they taught me. Unfortunately, today, our students aren't leaving school in the same way. They're not going home 10 years later and remembering teachers fondly. They're remembering policies and process, and we need to do better as a community. And I know we can. I know everyone's heart's in the right spot, but the reality is, until we start addressing these things, as a parent, as a father, we're not going to fix them.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Pruitt.
So as a board member, we receive every month, or every quarter, I apologize, every quarter, how our students are doing. And so when, as a board, we see decline in math scores or how our students are doing in reading, we assess, or we ask our administration to assess and tell us a little bit about why is that happening, what's going on. And for a little while, including the state, said that some of it was COVID and loss of that instruction. However, we are getting to a point where we are looking more at the data and asking our administration and our principals and our teachers to give us ideas on how we can get our students to do better in math and do better in reading. Because everything kind of goes together, right? If you can't read something, you can't continue on, and you can't read a math problem, then you won't be successful in math. So we're trying to do a lot of the project learning as well, where they're learning the skills that will hopefully they will need in adulthood through these project learnings, the blended learning, but also with the board monitoring that.
Thank you, ma'am. Andy?
Yeah, I think it's still going to come back down to releasing some of our policy standards for teachers, and unfortunately, a lot of them come down to discipline. You know, having this new bill that is being proposed today from the state, I think will help out a lot. Empowering our teachers to make decisions for their classrooms, empowering them to keep their classrooms safe and moving. I think that we can't fix this until we actually start acknowledging it. You know, saying that we have programs that we assess, and when we see students are failing, we go in there and do X, Y, and Z. Well, I hate to be, you know, a negative Nelly, but X, Y, and Z hasn't worked. Nothing has worked that we have tried to do since we have taken on this behemoth of restorative discipline and top-down teaching from TEA down to VISD. Until we actually address this head-on and give our
Sorry, what's the stop?
teachers. Thank you.
Margaret?
So yes, addressing something once it's failed is not going to work. It's already failed. That's why they're closely monitored, and we put in tutorings, we put in one-on-one, we have 3-hour teachers to help those students who are losing a little bit of that gap. And I think that's what we've done, and Ms. Guayasso is looking at other strategies, and they're talking together with principals and teachers and getting their input on what can we do better. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the closing statements. We ask each of you to 2 minutes to make a closing statement. If you want to get a drink of water first, you can. So go ahead. Take a little moment. Could y'all stand up here for an hour and do this? I don't know if I could. This is great. Thank you, candidates, for doing this. This is awesome. All right. So we'll commence with the closing statements. Ms. Pruitt.
During my time on the board, we have seen a decline in teacher turnover, and we have lowered the tax rate. It's actually the lowest it's been in many years. We have increased enrollment in dual credit and AP classes. We have increased the number of CTE certificates earned. We've increased the number of students who enlist in the military, and we have raised the graduation rate to 98%, well over the state average. For nearly a decade, I have advocated for transparency, accountability, and progress. I will continue to support the work to improve student attendance, discipline, and outcomes. I will support the work to increase the number of students who graduate with an associate's degree and attend college after graduation. And I will continue to explore ways to increase teacher pay. My passion for public education and my love for this community is what brings me here tonight, asking and seeking re-election to the VISD board. You, me, and VISD can work together and make this a destination district where parents, families, and educators will want to come because we have strong academics and great opportunities here in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy.
Yeah, so many common themes there. I'm going to start with the military, since it was brought up. In 2005, Victoria County as a whole was the second highest military recruiter in the state of Texas. Today it's in the bottom 10 counties for the state of Texas. So there's absolutely no way we're recruiting more today than we were 15 years ago. We cannot fix what we won't face. VISD is at a crossroads. We can either continue a decade-long decline under Margaret Pruitt, or we can turn the page today. Since 2016, under Margaret's tenure, enrollment has collapsed. Over 1,400 students are gone. Academic scores have plummeted to the lowest they've ever been, and the new ones are going to be out next week, and you guys will be shocked. The trust between the district and community has been shattered. VISD ranks near the bottom of Texas schools, and instead of fixing it, they have tried to hide it. The truth matters, and if elected, I will be a champion for the truth, because transparency is the first step to real solutions. We will make the full budget public, every dollar, every fund, every program. We will audit programs like the bridge and the connections to see where the money really goes. We will implement performance tracking on every campus, real metrics that parents can access anytime. We will tie administrative raises to academic outcomes. For the past 10 years, when every school in VISD has failed, our superintendent has still gotten bonuses approved by our board. We will push teacher pay increases where it matters, in the classroom, not at the top. And most importantly, we will restore trust. The community will know what's broken and what we're doing to fix it, and where we are every step of the way. My name is Andrew Rokovich, and I'm not here to keep the status quo, I'm here to end it. So on May 3rd, vote to replace the silence with honesty and the spin with action. Vote Rokovich.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our candidates. Let's hear it for our moderators. Thank you, moderators. If I'll ask the candidates if you can go in front of these lovely signs, we want to take a lovely photo, if you don't mind, with our moderators, especially our students. Is there someone from Victoria Advocate that will help us out with that? That'd be great. So we'll just go in front of the signs here. All right, so if you want to just take a moment, if you need to stretch or go to the restroom, get a drink real quick, and we're going to resume in just a few minutes with the District 7 contestants. Tell us where you want. Are you good?
Madison.
Thank you so much.
That's okay. I get over there. That's all right. The good thing is I can always get this stuff. Yeah.
All right, we're going to reset the stage, get ready for the next debate. So we'll start just in a few minutes. Other candidates for District 7, if y'all want a water, we do have some water. So come on down and get some water. So I'll have chairs, gentlemen, if y'all want to sit in the chairs, you can, but it seems like a lot of people are willing, but whatever y'all's preference. You can use the podium, whatever works. Well, we ask that you kind of confine it because we're filming. Yeah.
Or we're not doing mics. That's right.
We're not doing mics.
Yeah, I said that. I'm saying if you press the mic, will it mute?
For our next debate.
Put the chairs up.
Okay, so naturally the question is, where is District 7? And there it is in all its glory. So I know, again, some of you see can you see your house? Can you see your neighborhood? Can you see your lawn? No? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. 6 and 7 are both on the same thing. 7 is blue. 7 is blue, right? See the blue? Okay. So do you know these gentlemen? Mr. Josh Moore. Let's hear it for Josh Moore. Mr. Mickey Costella. Mickey. And Mr. Christian West. Let's hear it for Christian. So guys, we'd ask as you present just to try to confine yourself, whether you want to do it from behind the podium or use the mic, to kind of this area where the cameras can see you and the folks online can see you. So we're going to start with our questions, and Mr. Sean Akers. Oh, see, I forgot. Each of you will have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, and please be cognizant of the time. Ms. Buchanan is holding those. The green is go. The yellow is 30 seconds, wind it up. And then the red is stop. And then things get serious. We've got the bell. Ready to ring the bell. Okay, excellent. All right. So we'll start with the 2-minute introductions. If you want to use the podium, you can. If you want to use the mic, you can, with whatever you're most comfortable with. All right.
I'll use the mic to start. Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Moore. I am a lifelong resident of Victoria, and I am getting into this predominantly because I got involved because I've got 3 young girls, 5, 6, and 8. 2 of them are at Mission Valley right now. The other one will start kindergarten out there next year. So I think a lot of this race comes down to who we are as people and our experiences. I feel like I've got some great experience that will benefit the board. I went to Victoria College, then I graduated with my business degree here at UHV. I got my master's online, and I ran a coffee shop, Longleaf Coffee Company, for a few years while I was going to school. I renovated that building, and then I got to start volunteering at Victoria College a lot, and it became a full-time job. I started teaching some business classes over there. Then I started teaching some sports management classes, and then from there created a volleyball team, and eventually I was the coach and athletic director at Victoria College. Was there for almost 18 years. Started out as, like I said, a volunteer, and then ended up, like I said, as an athletic director. 4 years ago, my life changed. We were able to adopt our first daughter that we fostered for 2 years, and then we had 2 natural children of our own, and changed my life. Went into construction. Now I'm a business manager with JW Moore Construction, and I am focusing on my kids instead of everybody else's. And really, that got me into wanting to benefit VISD, because I see the need for growth, the need for progress, and my girls are young. And so I have a huge stake in the game. They've got a long way to go in their education. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mickey.
Is that good? Can you hear me on that mic? Good. Good evening. My name is Mickey Costella. I'm running for VISD District 7 School Board Trustee. I was not born in Victoria, Texas, but my family moved here when I was 8 months old. Now my wife and I are raising our 3 daughters here in Victoria. One just graduated A&M, one is graduating West High School this year, and we have another that's a junior at St. Joe. I'm a concerned parent and member of this community who believes in common sense, accountability, and getting back to basics. I've spent the past several months meeting with teachers, parents, coaches, previous board members, even our new superintendent. I've been attending board meetings, reviewed performance data. This matters to me. Right now, our district is underperforming. Last year, we scored below the state average in all the STAR test categories, every grade level. I'm running because I believe we can do better. We need safe schools, strong academics, real support for our teachers. They're on the front lines. They know what's working, what's not working. They should have a voice in the decisions that directly affect them. I also believe in real transparency, straight answers, clear communication, open doors. With the new superintendent in place, this is our chance, this is our moment to reset the tone and focus of our district. But that only works if more people get involved. I want to be a bridge between the board and the community, bringing your voices into the process and making sure our district reflects the values and priorities of the citizens that live here. I'm here to bring real, actual progress, not politics, not an agenda, and I'd be honored to earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, can everybody hear me? Cool. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's community election forum. My name is Christian West, and I'm running for District 7 trustee because I believe our schools are the heart of our community, and every child deserves an education that prepares them for a bright future. As a parent proud member of this community, I'm driven by a passion to ensure our schools are safe, equitable, and focused on student success. I want to be a voice for families, advocating for policies that prioritize our children's needs and to empower our educators. While I don't have any direct experience in education, my active duty background has equipped me with unique skills that will serve the VISD school board well. In the military, I've learned the importance of discipline, strategic planning, and teamwork under pressure. I've led diverse teams, managed complex budgets, and made tough decisions to achieve mission-critical goals. These experiences translate directly to the board's role in overseeing district operations, fostering collaboration among stakeholders, and ensuring resources are used effectively to support our students and staff. To prepare for this role, I have immersed myself in understanding VISD's challenges and opportunities. I've attended board meetings, studied district budgets, the state tapper, and engaged with parents, teachers, and administrators to hear their perspectives. I've also researched best practices in school governance and connected with current and former trustees to learn what it takes to serve effectively. This preparation has given me a clear picture of the board's responsibilities and the impact we can have when we listen and act with purpose. I believe VISD faces significant challenges, including addressing learning gaps widened by recent disruptions, ensuring equitable access to resources across all schools, and supporting teacher retention and growing demands. We must also navigate budget constraints while investing in programs that prepare students for a rapidly changing world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's give them all a hand. We move to our first question. Ms. Caitlin Lopez.
What is your stance on expanding or limiting advanced placement, dual credit, or career and technical education programs?
All right, so my years at Victoria College showed me that dual credit is very important. I had a lot of students, a lot of athletes that had dual credit in school. And to be honest with you, a majority of them were from the smaller communities around Victoria. Less at VISD at the time than, like I said, those surrounding communities that I experienced. So I want to expand that because I saw that the students that had that dual credit had an edge up on every single other student there at Victoria College. Also, I'm in construction now, and so technical fields, plumbing, electrician, that's a huge part of our community, and we don't have enough of them. To be honest with you, plumbers, electricians can charge whatever they want because there's no competition for them right now for those skilled trades. The more that we can get skilled trades at the high school level, they'd be making more than a university graduate right now on average because of the need for that in our community. So as a VISD trustee, I would want to expand both and all to benefit our community. Use what we have to educate them, prepare them for work or higher education right out of high school. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mickey?
So I also agree it should be expanded. Right now, both of my daughters are in AP classes. My youngest, Sophie, she will almost have her associate's degree when she graduates next year. I think it's crucial. I think she is prepared for the next step, which is college. My middle daughter is in AP classes, but has not been able to get the college credit like my other daughter, St. Joe, has. The opportunities are there. I think it should be expanded. I think teachers I think the administration should let parents know more about it. I had no clue what it was until my daughter was in it. I think it should absolutely be expanded, and the most important thing, being career ready, yes, but also being prepared for college. I think that's a big issue coming out of the public school system versus the private that I've seen firsthand. And I think all of it should be expanded. I think the community should know more about it also.
Thank you, sir. Mr. West?
All right. Excuse me. So I'd like to start off with agreeing to expand our AP and dual credit and or career technical education programs. I think they're phenomenal across the board. Now, we're gonna get into some little stats here. So our top industry gross regional project in the area is manufacturing. So why not get these kids into manufacturing at an early age? You start them young, right? So let's get real life skills learning. Simple life skills is counting back change. Teach kids how to count money. Dealing with currency, that's super easy. We need to empower our children and have them ready for a career after high school. So we have students in our statistics for CCMR, which is high at 85% for the 2022-2023 school year, but they're not college ready. That is 30% lower than the state average. So we've got the graduates all day, but they're not ready for college when they step out of those high school doors for the last day of school. So I do believe that we can increase AP classes, dual credits, but I'm definitely for career readiness. Our kids need to put their foot in the right direction to get ready for jobs in the real world and to help our community out with basic economics. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moore? Next question.
Sorry, next question.
Or do we want to give them the rebuttal? Yeah. So if any of you would like to refute anything, you have a minute. You don't have to use the rebuttal, but if there's any refutation you'd like to offer, please do. Anybody want to offer refutation? Y'all are great. Okay. Very easy. All right, we'll go to our next question, and that's going to be Desiree.
Do you have a basic understanding of the parts of VISD budget? And if so, can you describe which parts you, as a trustee, would be responsible for approving and monitoring throughout the year, and why the final financial statements show revenues and expenditures in excess of the approved budget amounts?
I don't know if I should go first all the time because then they'll just copy me, but I guess if I give a good enough answer, then that's fine with everybody. So I do have a basic understanding of the parts of the VISD budget, and I think more importantly, I have a basic understanding of budgets and running business, running a school budget. I had a pretty big budget with the athletic program, the sports center at the college, and some of the classes over there. So I've been in and out of budgets, and you know, anybody that's ran a business know that you have a budget regardless of you put it on pen or paper or not. But, you know, at the college world and the business world, the good business world, you put it all on paper and you understand every part of it. To say I understand every part of the VISD budget would be wrong. I'm not privileged to some of that information, and I haven't been there to serve a term yet. So, but as a trustee, we are responsible for setting that budget, for overseeing that budget, and overseeing the superintendent. So that's something that I have done at maybe a smaller level, but a similar level throughout my career. And it's something that I don't shy away from. And when I see numbers out of place, I'll always be the first to acknowledge that. But having a basic understanding of finance and business and the way education works, I think is going to benefit me in this position. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mickey?
I've seen a copy of the budget. It's pretty thick for the VISD. I have a basic understanding of it. I too have been, my family owned a business for 40 years here in Victoria. I was a part of it. We kept the books. As far as this budget goes, I mean, it's the responsibility of the board to oversee it, to set the budget, to make sure that we're not wasting money, to make sure that everything is flowing the way it's supposed to. You know, and speaking with the new superintendent, I know she's going through every bit of it with a fine-tooth comb to find savings, to find ways of spending our money better, and I will support that. But as far as getting into the weeds of what's in this budget and expenditures and revenues and excess, I haven't seen it. I don't know. But I will, if elected, I will learn every bit of it. I'll learn every page of that book. But other than that, I'm just, as long as we're not wasting money, spending money, or sending it other places where it's not benefiting our kids, then obviously we won't support it. But other than that, I think I heard two wildly different sides of our budget just a little bit ago. One said 137, the other said 202. I don't know the difference if it's 200 or if it's 137. Either one is a whole lot of money, and hopefully we're not wasting any of it. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. West?
So I have seen the budget, I've seen the book too, but I don't have an understanding for it, to be totally honest with you. I understand how business works, I understand how economics works. This is not going to be new for me. I definitely think that as a board of members, we will come to a general consensus and vote on the decisions that need to be voted on in regards to our financial planning for our community. It has to come to a unanimous vote. That's what it comes down to, and that's why we have these meetings and sessions, and that's why they last for hours, because we're trying to figure out how to work a budget out. You get money from the state, you have to disseminate that money somewhere, but we need to all come to an agreement together, and that's what I plan to do, and be transparent about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any candidates want to offer a rebuttal to anything that was just said? You have a minute option to do that. No? All right. We'll proceed with the next question. Mr. Sean Akers.
Gentlemen, how would you address rising concerns about student behavior and discipline in our schools? Do you support restorative justice practices as a discipline model? Why or why not?
So discipline in our schools, first thing is we want to follow the rules that are in place. Our new superintendent, when I've heard her talk a few times, she wants to enforce the rules that are in place, not bend, not break, okay? Enforce those rules. If you enforce rules that are in place, in my opinion, it'll solve a lot of the problems that we have, okay? Some schools may enforce a rule to the extent, and some are very lax on different rules, okay? So if we're fair across the board. Someone acts up, this is your penalty. Follow the rules that are in place. I think that hinders a lot of the future discipline problems, especially with that particular student. They know that they can't break the rules and get away with it with this school, this teacher, this time of year, okay? Let's see. But student behavior in general is a problem, and it's going to constantly be a problem. Kids are built differently. School districts are built differently than they were 30, 40 years ago. That's the fact of it. But again, getting a policy as a board, overseeing the superintendent and making sure she stands to her word on following through with those discipline procedures. That's the job of the board, is to oversee the superintendent. And if the superintendent isn't doing what she says, then the school board needs to make corrective action. But getting into the weeds of deciding what the discipline should be, we've got to make sure the superintendent in general is following what she says is going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mickey?
So when I was in school, we had zero tolerance. If you broke a rule, you were sent to Mitchell, and you were there. There was no middle ground. There was no talking. There were rules in place for a reason. It was for the safety of our students. It was so that the classes weren't disrupted, and it was zero tolerance. I think that is it worked for all of us. You know, it was Mitchell, wasn't it, where everybody got sent to? The disruptive students were gone. Classes resumed to normal. I think zero tolerance is probably better, but I do recognize that times are different. I've heard from several students in my middle daughter's class that they are afraid to go to the restroom. One, being guilty by association because somebody's doing drugs in school, or getting into some kind of fight with the kids that are doing the bad things in the school. There are monitors for vape monitors. The principals I've talked to, not just in this district, have said, you know, the monitor, it goes off, but by the time anybody gets there, the students are gone. Nobody is in trouble. Nothing happened. But I believe zero tolerance would be a better way. I've heard the administration talk about they know who the 200 to 300 students are that are disrupting class. I know we have the DAEP. I think it should be more of a permanent thing. 2 weeks for an offense. Vaping, 2 weeks, fine. A fight, anything of that nature, I think zero tolerance should come into play. I think we should use both. If the offense is bad enough, get them out of the classroom, get them out of the school, send them somewhere else so that the rest of the students can keep learning.
Thank you, sir. Mr. West?
So for concerns about student behavior and discipline in the schools, there's 2 types of discipline. There's good discipline and there's bad discipline. We are all disciplined in here. We are all adults. We are all parents, maybe grandparents, maybe not parents, but we do care about the kids in the community. So discipline does begin at home. We have to have strong parents that discipline their children at home and provides them with that sense of leadership, basically. Teach our kids how to be leaders. Everybody can be a leader. You don't always have to be a follower, and it starts with discipline. Now, behavior issues is kind of on a different realm. We have, like Mr. Costello just said, we have a list of kids that are continuously disruptive and have very excessive behavior issues. Send them to the DAE program. Mitchell, as you had mentioned before, treat it like boot camp. Have those kids walking in line, toe the line. Make it zero tolerance. I agree with that. 2 kids get into a fight, send them there, and let them go through a boot camp. Why not? It'll work. Zero tolerance worked when I was a kid. Zero tolerance worked for everybody in here. I got paddled in high school if I was late for class. If you were late for class, you got paddled. I got paddled plenty of times because I was always late. So I definitely think that restorative justice practices aren't working for us. I think there's a different way for us to approach it. We need to look at that avenue and get in there and navigate it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Many of you gentlemen want to offer a rebuttal to anything that was just said? All right. We're going to change the order this next time, just to make it interesting. Okay. We'll go on to our next question. Ms. Linda Nickel.
How would you ensure that every student, regardless of background or ability, has access to quality education?
All right, so we'll go in reverse order where they're all drinking water, okay? Mr. West.
So the public education system is here for a reason. So I do believe that every kid has access to quality education as long as they're willing to come forward and receive that education. Now, if they're being disruptive and they're having behavioral issues, then we need to address why this is an issue that is causing them to not get the quality education that they rightfully deserve. I do think that we could work on, as a community, influencing other parents to support their kids too. If you have a family that you know of and they're having issues, go in there and help them out. It's the God-given thing to do. It's the right thing to do. We have to help each other as a community. So if you see a family struggling and they need help, go lend them a hand. Take the time out of your busy schedule for 30 minutes or a couple of hours and help somebody out to get that student into class where they need to be, and have that teacher sit there and help them out and teach them what we need to do in order to better ourselves as a community as a whole. Thank you.
Mr. Moore. Or Mickey. Yeah, go ahead.
I hit something.
It's all right. There you go.
Okay, thank you. So this question is important to me. My oldest daughter, 8 years old, in the foster system. I went through a lot of training with the foster system and saw a lot of things that I may not have been, privileged to before I went through that. Opened your eyes. There's so many different backgrounds, so many different parental situations. There's so many different economic situations at home. But to give every single student the ability to learn is important. Further on that, I was a coach for many years, 18 years at Victoria College. I coached somebody from, the poorest of poor to the wealthiest of wealthiest in my program. I did not want to treat anybody differently in that program. It didn't matter to me. So those things are important to me moving forward. VISD, that's something that I'll push forward.
Thank you, sir. Mickey.
Oh, there wasn't a timer?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you have a few seconds
I'm
left.
good. I'm good. Thank you. That was a good time for me.
All right.
I think VISD does a good job of this already. I think we continue doing what we're doing. I think we have schools all over the place in every neighborhood that's, whether it's poor or wealthy. Even out in the country, the new one we built in Mission Valley. I think that a lot of this starts when the kids are young, in the young grades. If we start then and we get them interested, we keep them engaged, I think that continues through all the way high school and even into college. I would continue doing what VISD does now. We have a very diverse community, and I think all of our students they have options for our public schools. We have plenty of private schools they could go to. But I think VISD does a wonderful job of this already, and I'll continue to do a good job of it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone want to offer a rebuttal on that? Yes, sir.
Maybe not a rebuttal, but a continuation for mine. Again, just getting back to treating every student like they matter is going to be important to me moving forward. Like I said, as a coach, you get to know your students, you get to know your athletes, and sometimes there's a parent that comes up and they've got the loudest voice, okay, or they've got the most money. It's being strong and knowing how to handle those situations. Just because somebody that's the loudest or has the most money or has the craziest story to tell you doesn't mean that's right for all the students. So as a VISD trustee, you have to look out for what's best for the students in whole and make sure that they have the education that they need, the teachers that are in place to help those students, the resources, so that they can achieve everything that they need for their future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other candidates, rebuttal or response? All right, we move on to our next question. Ms. Caitlin Lopez.
In light of Texas Senate Bill 26, how do you think the teacher incentive and retention allotments would impact the recruiting and retention of high-quality teachers in VISD?
I think this is a great question. We need teacher incentive and retention. We need the allotments and everything. Now, I do have, excuse me. So empowering our teachers, real incentives such as professional training to sharpen their skills, housing to help ease costs, and smaller classes so they can focus on teaching and not chaos. Offer each teacher a leadership role and or loan forgiveness if they are graduates with a teaching degree. Those are things that we could do, and those are incentives that I think would definitely help with Senate Bill 26. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mickey? We're just switching it all over the place.
Just one. Yeah. I think this is a fantastic program. There are 3 levels of it. An exemplary teacher, for example, can get up to $25,000 bonus on their annual pay. They will receive between 80 to 90% of that bonus. The other 10-15% will go to teachers that support that teacher. This is a great way to increase pay without costing taxpayers any money, without adjusting our budget in any type of way. I think this is fantastic. I know that all the other districts around us have had it for the past 7 years that it's been around. I think it's strange that VISD didn't adopt it earlier. I know that it was the teachers that decided they didn't want it, but now that it's here, I think it's fantastic. I'm excited for it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moore.
So I believe this, as well as any incentive program, needs to be taken advantage of by our district and by our teachers. Also, help guiding if there's any special incentive programs that they can apply for. Having the district help those teachers and show support to those teachers, because we don't want our good teachers to leave. I've to be honest with you, taught and coached probably 50 or 60 teachers. Now, some are in VISD, some are in Houston or Austin. And the reason that they may have left to those larger districts, bottom line was pay. And I'll say this, pay and not a strong tie to our community, both of those things combined. Because if they've got a strong tie to our community, whether it's family, whether it's just the community as a whole, they're gonna stick around because they love the community. So providing those avenues to make it such a strong district that they don't wanna leave, not only for pay, but the support they get from staff, the community as a whole, housing, the cost of living, things to do around the area. Those all work together to ensure that our teachers stick around and don't go to those Houston, Austin. One thing that also we need to help support is so they don't go to our surrounding communities. Some of my former students are say at Yoakum or Cuero or places like that. Maybe they're tied to that community, but maybe there's things that we could do to help them stay in the VISD district to keep those great teachers here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any rebuttals, gentlemen? All right, thank you. We'll move on to our next question. That's going to be Desiree.
Thank you. How will you ensure that parent and community voices are heard and valued in district decisions?
How will you ensure that parent and community voices are heard and valued in district decisions? By getting our parents involved and having them come to these meetings, the town halls that we have, the open meetings, open sessions, everything. Our parents need to get involved. We need to support each other. Have parents come out. Bring a parent with you. Bring your next door neighbor with you. It matters. Drag someone along with you and just make it a chain reaction. Everybody needs to get involved. The school board does. They get out into the public eye and they do make it heard and known that the board is doing something to benefit our students in the ISD. We need it more, we need to be louder, and we need to be clear, and we need to just bring people with us. Bring more people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mickey.
So I think open communication, all of my contact info is on my website. Parent involvement, community involvement is one of my pillars of my campaign. It's crucial to getting our district where it needs to be. Like I said a minute ago, having the kids start young and instilling this discipline and good work ethic, school ethics, follow the rules. I think by getting parents involved at the younger school age is crucial. Open communication and transparency are a big deal. If anybody has any types of issues, concerns, questions, they can reach out to any one of the board members. All of the information is public. I think by just reaching out to them, holding the forums, there's been a few of the VISD at the high schools are having their I can't remember what they're called, the open meetings. They're fantastic. I think that the more that the parents are involved, the better everybody will do.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moore.
All right, so you may not know it now, but I'm a very, very shy person, and I've been that way my whole life. I'm always nervous to talk to somebody new. So something like showing up to a community forum, showing up to a school board meeting and talking, that would be out of my wheelhouse, especially 5-10 years ago, okay? I've grown out of that, but there's many, many other parents that feel the same way. And I would have been comfortable talking to a teacher, to a principal at my school, things like that. So understanding that just not the loudest voices need to be heard, all the voices need to be heard. So there's things that are heard at a teacher level, because that teacher is talking with the students, talking with the parents of those students. Having some kind of way for those teachers to shoot those concerns up, all the way up to the school board, to hit those levels of those students and those parents that don't have the loudest voice, that don't have the most money, to get those community voices heard at a much bigger level. That would be important to me. Following, getting some kind of procedure for that. Because yes, there is opportunities. There's opportunities for 50,000 people to show up tonight. They're not here, okay? That's the way communities work. They'll disagree and yell on Facebook or say something behind closed doors with the family, but those voices never get heard, okay? So enabling a pathway to get those voices heard at a level that not everybody is used to, I think would be important and a benefit to our board and our school district. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone want to offer rebuttal, response to that? All right, you're easy, gentlemen. Thank you. Okay. Let's go on to our next question, Mr. Sean Akers.
This is actually one we've got from the member of the audience. Would you support the teaching of the Bible and the Ten Commandments in public schools?
support teaching the Bible and the Ten Commandments in our schools. I would. The Ten Commandments are they're vital. It's a great set of rules to live by, that's for sure. Teaching the Bible, Christianity, we would also have to cater to the other religions also. It shouldn't be just about one. We should entertain them all. We could probably get volunteers to teach the class, maybe after school hours or something like that. But I would support teaching religion in the schools, especially the Ten Commandments. But also, like I said, we'd have to do them all.
Mr. Moore.
So yeah, I would support having the Ten Commandments in school. Our country is built on the principles in the Ten Commandments. More so what I want to see is the freedom of students and parents to not be restrained. If a student wants to pray at lunch, they can pray. If a student wants to voice their opinion on Christianity or their religion, I don't want that to be silenced. I want them to be able to believe what they want to believe without everybody shutting them down. If they want to say a prayer before a basketball game or something like that, I would be in support of that. To say that I want religion taught in school, that's a tricky question. Just in Christianity alone, there's thousands of different denominations, and to be honest with you, you're asking for a fight. But I would hope that we can all agree that the Ten Commandments are something that we can base a lot of our moral compass to, because that is something, again, that our country was built on. Having a moral compass, having those 10 commandments to go by. But as far as teaching religion in our schools at a level where there could be lots of conflict with so many different denominations and different styles of religion, I'd rather keep that at home and in our churches so that the families can raise their family as they see fit. Thank you.
Mr. West.
So my name is Christian, follower of Christ. So I am a Christian man. I am a believer in the 10 Commandments, and I do believe that freedom of religion should be expressed in our schools. 10 Commandments. In my community, I live on the northwest side in Terra Vista. There's a lot of Muslims and Indians in my community, and I love all of them. They're all great people. They all work in the refineries. They all work at the plants out here, and they have great kids. I believe that everybody should be able to express their First Amendment right of freedom of religion and everything that follows behind that. I think we could bring that into school, and I think that we can not have that conflict in our schools of people wanting to learn about different religions. I learned about different religions prior to doing all of this. So it's not wrong. It's just opening up your mind and to experience what everybody else around the world experiences. So we need to not be just so stuck in on VISD when it comes to that, but be open to everybody that comes into our community that is of a different religion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any response or rebuttal to that segment? All right, we're going to move to our last question, which is an online question, and I'm going to ask Desiree to ask that.
What is one policy that you would like to see implemented in the district?
I don't know if you could call this a policy, but I think one thing that might benefit our teachers are retaining teachers and coaches. Maybe a daycare for the employees of VISD. Some daycares $2,000 a month. If we implemented some type of daycare for the staff and teachers, coaches, for everybody, I think other districts do it. The larger ones, Corpus has a daycare that they offer to all their staff. I think that would help keep some of the teachers and coaches around this area. I don't know if you can call that a policy or not, but I would support that for sure.
Thank you, sir.
So right here, I have the 2023-2024 Texas Academic Performance Report. CTE is a great thing. I think we should focus on our CTE because I think that the CTE will benefit our community for those that don't go beyond college or don't go to college after high school. It's not a policy, but it's, let's say, a program. Simple as teaching kids how to barbecue. Why not? Texas barbecue is prime in our great state. Why not have kids do something as simple as smoking some briskets, teaching them how to do it after hours, teach them how to smoke up some ribs, and get VC or UHV, the welding programs, the welding colleges, take some old kegs or something and create a smoker. Have them compete with welding teachers in order for them to be certified welders by creating a smoker or a grill, taking those items to the high schools here in our area and teach kids how to smoke a brisket. We're gonna need people to cook for us eventually. We've got a great smokehouse here, Mumford's. They've been around for ages. They're gonna need somebody to come in and do this for them. They're not gonna be around forever. Of course, they've got their family members that, you know, will grow up and learn how to do it too, but somebody on the outside to help them out, it's not a bad idea. So going back to the Tapper report, we need our kids to, one, be ready for college. Yes, of course. Be ready to go and experience life outside of Victoria, Texas. Be ready to go experience life beyond high school and explore those avenues of life. But also at the same time, you need to be ready for a career. You need to be ready to give back to the economy and boost Victoria economically. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I do like Christian's idea about a barbecue class because I probably frequent that a lot. I think we can all be in agreement on that. But to further on with Christian, well, to answer the question specifically, I don't really want to get into what I want as a policy moving forward because as a school board member, you know, team of 7, and then you've got the superintendent. So to be honest with you, I don't want to say what I want to see happen with a policy. But I would like, and it's very dear to my heart, is making sure that, like Christian said, our CTE programs are expanded. The trades, they're in need in this area. In order to grow this town, we need more housing. We need more affordable housing, okay? Bottom line, we need more affordable housing. And I see that firsthand, okay? And to be honest with you, as a builder, you can only make as cheap a houses as every trade underneath you, okay? And so when somebody out of high school or right out of a trade program can make $100,000 a year, and me with my master's degree was starting out at $35,000 a year, tells you that our trades need to grow in our area, okay? So expanding those things, expanding the opportunities for many different trades. There's some high schools are taking advantage of some of the technology programs. We've got Tesla that's got a plant just up the road. They've got their facility down in South Texas. There's great opportunities to expand in the technology fields, the alternative powers, because batteries are a thing of the future. We need people that know how to work on the new cars, okay? The cars that you worked on 20 years ago were a gasoline engine and no computer parts. Ask a mechanic from 20 years ago and they don't want anything to do with the cars of today. So getting ahead of the game in those, the wave of the future is important for our district, important to grow our students. So there's many different programs that can be explored at different levels, and that's really what I want to see as VISD trustee, if elected in my term, is to see us looking forward. What is the jobs that are needed 4, 5, 6 years from now, and not just on today with say plumbing or a different occupation, but looking to the future is important.
Thank you, sir. Any rebuttal or addition to that? Okay, gentlemen, we move now to our closing statements. Again, you have 2 minutes for your closing statement. Mickey.
Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. To everybody out there listening, watching online, especially teachers and school staff, this is your chance to be heard. Your voice matters more than you think. Our new superintendent, Ms. Guiazzo, in place, now is the time for real meaningful change. This could be one of the most important local elections that we have. It's our opportunity to shape the future of our district. Nothing will change unless we apply pressure. Like I've said before, I don't care who you voted for president. I don't care which political party you belong to. If you have a concern, a suggestion, or just something on your mind about our schools, teacher, or district, reach out. I want to hear it, and I will listen. There are things happening at the state level that are out of our control, but here in Victoria, we can lead with smart planning, strong leadership, and a community that stays engaged. We deserve schools that reflect our values. We deserve better outcomes for our kids and better support for our teachers. Let's fight for the schools our students and staff deserve, and I'd be honored to earn your vote.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moore.
Thank you all again for coming out tonight. I would appreciate your vote. I'd appreciate you telling your friends to vote for me. For me, it's more of a word of mouth campaign. Okay, I've got some signs up, but I don't have 1,000 signs out. One thing about me is I am who I am. This is me. I've built who I am over the experiences I've had in my life through construction, through teaching at the college, through coaching, through having experiences with students that have changed me. Having kids changed me. And so building on those past experiences and having a moral compass to know what's right and wrong, I think is important for this position. Being able to sit through a board meeting and make decisions that are important to our students. And when we keep students first in all our decisions, I think the answers come very easily. And that's what I did when I was at Victoria College. Whatever was best for that student or that student athlete, that's what we did, because my political aspirations are this. I mean, I don't want to do anything else. I want to do this because I want to benefit the school district and the future of my children. And so I've got a stake in the game. And again, I would appreciate your vote. And more importantly, I'd appreciate you telling 20 friends to vote for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. West.
Thank you all for joining tonight's Community Election Forum and sharing your voices and questions. My name is Christian West, and I am running for VISD School Board to champion our students, support our educators, and strengthen our community. Your ideas and concerns have reinforced my commitment to transparent and collaborative governance that puts our children first. Together, we can tackle our challenges and build a brighter future for VISD. I humbly ask for your support and your vote to serve as your trustee. Let's keep this momentum going. Thank you and good night.
Thank you so much, sir. Let's give all of our candidates a big hand. Thank you so much, candidates. And if you'll just stick around, we'll have a photo right in front with our moderators, and we'll get ready to transition to our last segment. In just a few minutes, we'll have one of our mayoral candidates, and that will be our last segment. So just give us a couple of minutes here if you want to stretch your legs, get a drink. final segment. Hopefully online people, are y'all still with us, online people? Hi, online people.
Hopefully everybody's still
How
awake.
are you? Hi. Yeah. Are any of my students out there? Hi, students. Are you finding this helpful? I'm sure you are. Can't wait to see what you write about it.
So any people adding the sauce?
All right, so we're going to settle in and get ready for our final segment. One of our mayoral candidates. I need to change all my slides here. There we go. This, yep, good. Testing, testing. 1, 2. Rainbow, good mic check. Yep, we're good. There it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're very glad to be joined by one of our mayoral candidates, Mr. Jacob Sasada. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. Appreciate it. Salceda. Thank you for coming, sir. Add the sauce.
Add the sauce.
All right, so we're gonna have our questions, and then if time allows, we'll try to incorporate some of those audience questions and then our online questions. What happened to Desiree? There she is. She's by a plug, okay.
She hid behind the board.
Yes, all right, so we'll go ahead and start, and Jacob, you'll have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
All right, opening statement. Also, thank you everybody for being here tonight. We know it's not a full room, but I think this is important because these are the people that really want to know about what's going on within their city. And I believe that it's important that everybody knows what's going on in their city. I just want to say, my name is Jacob Salceda. I'm running for mayor because I believe leadership starts with service, and service starts with showing up. And I'm not up here because I have all the answers. I'm up here because I think that we should ask better questions, and we should be involved, and we should be talking with our city government. Now, let's see. I believe that we can either stay uninformed and complain about city leadership, or we can get informed and challenge that city leadership. And I think that's best for all of us, to make a city that'll work for us. Too many people want to leave Victoria. I want to make it a place where people want to stay, and a place that works for regular folks, not just insiders. I believe we have the ingredients. We just need bold leadership to add the sauce. That's it.
Thank you, sir. We're now going to proceed with our questions. And Mr. Sean Akers.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Salceda. We really appreciate it. Homelessness and poverty are a concern in Victoria. What are your plans for addressing these, including working with existing service organizations?
Yeah, I think the city has relied on nonprofits way too much. And I think when you look at the city codes and you look at a lot of the structure that the city has set up, there's a lot of gaps. There are things that happen in practice, but there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of things that get in the way, fees, permits, whatever it may be. And that's due to the fact that there is no real structure for a lot of these gaps, including homelessness and poverty. Victoria is sitting at an 18% poverty rate. That's worse than the US average. That's worse than the state average. State is 14%. US right now is at 11.5, I believe, from the last numbers. And it's only gone worse since the last time I decided to run. And I think that's something that nobody has addressed. I don't believe that anybody is creating, and I know Bill's not gonna like me saying this, affordable housing, chances to, for giving people opportunity to have, first-time home buyers or people that are under that median income having the ability to, thrive in this city. And I think that, one of the things that I wanted to really do is start a homelessness solution task force, right? Somebody that, a group that would be able to work with the nonprofits, work with faith-based groups, or just community leaders in general who want to make a difference and want to address the homelessness issue. We see every day that there are tons of people out there, whether they're holding out signs or, and I think also one thing that gets lost is we want to be angry about it. People want to be vicious about it, but we have to have compassion. We have to believe that some of these people, we don't know their story. Some of them are veterans. Some of them have had a hard life, and things just didn't go their way. I'm not saying handouts, but I'm saying that the structure for the city should be set up to help those people.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to offer a rebuttal to yourself?
Well, I'll tell you what now.
All right, Miss Glenda Nickel.
I was actually going to make that joke, so you beat me to it.
What are your feelings on the attempted collective bargaining concerns from some of our firefighters?
Oh, that's a fun one, because that's something that I feel like, the city doesn't talk about. They don't like to address it. We have firefighters who are not getting paid. And it goes beyond that. I sat down with the Victoria Firefighters Association, and we had the talks. And it's not just about pay. It's really not. The CBA is because they service a county and they're paid by the city. And that is something that they put 2 million miles on fire trucks every year. And they have to be replaced at about, I believe it's 8 million or 10 million miles. So if you do the math, every 5 years we're replacing fire trucks. Equipment is also going, outdated as well. And then they told me one thing that was very interesting. And I don't want to concern everybody or get anybody worried, but specifically with a hazmat group that they have, correct? And they have 12 people on that hazmat group, usually. But because there is a lack of funding, manpower, due to the city not addressing these issues, they have 4 people on that hazmat group. So that means 4 people doing a 12-man job. If there's a chemical spill or something goes wrong on the interstate, whatever it may be, we're in trouble, And thankfully, we have great people as firefighters right now that have a lot of experience, and they are, able to handle this situation. It's not on them, though. It's the fact that we're losing firefighters, police to cities around us, not even big cities. I'm not talking about Austin or Dallas or, even Corpus Christi. I'm talking about Edna. I'm talking about Refugio, El Campo, because they decide that they want to pay those people. And truthfully, that's where it starts, right? Is that people go to a website, they look for a job, and they say, oh, this area pays this amount. They're not going to come here if they know that they're doing, paying less to do what, what it takes for somebody to do here that they can do somewhere else that'll be stronger. So.
All right, sir. Thank you. Let's go on to our next question, Ms. Caitlin Lopez.
What is your plan for the tax rate for Victoria?
I think the tax rate in Victoria is something. So we're talking about the property tax rate, or just the sales tax, or
both?
Both? Just tax rates in general, like basically revenue, income, all that stuff. Okay. Well, I think when we talk about property taxes, right, that's kind of something that everybody's kind of behind in this city, is that we don't want our property taxes raised. And I can also agree with that. Nobody wants taxes raised, but what we miss out on is investing in our own city and the ability to take care of our own. And we're not doing that. Nobody's coming to save us. Not the federal government, not the state government. We do not invest in our city the way that we should. And I don't believe that I want to raise taxes. I don't think anybody that will come up here will say, oh, I want to raise taxes. But if we know where those taxes are going, and if we understand what we're investing in, then we can do it. And also, too, that's my problem with the community center, right? Is that they talk about the certificate of obligations like, oh, yeah, we collect debt no matter what. You have a say in that. We can make a petition if we don't want to hold on to that debt. But instead of, investing in a community center, or putting the money towards roads or anything like that, they want to build a new community center. And I'm not against the renovations. I'm against the fact that the government is basically saying, we can take on as much debt as we want without your approval. And that should be a problem for everybody. But coming back to, taxes, I think that we have to find revenue streams that bring in these taxes, whether that is the hotel occupancy tax, the short-term motor vehicle tax. But I think also is that we have to be aware of what those certain taxes address and where they come from. When we look at the short-term motor vehicle tax, right? Those are going to be taxing people who have their cars break down here in Victoria, not somebody out of town who's renting a car. How many people do you know that come in here and rent a car in Victoria? Only whenever your car breaks down are you the one that is paying that tax.
All right, thank you, sir. Desiree.
Are you concerned about the state of the road maintenance and repairs? How would you address this?
Absolutely. And actually I'm going to kind of go off my cheat sheet a little bit here because I think roads and infrastructure are a huge thing that I think everybody complains about. Now, I believe that they have done some great things, right, where they want to, where they've allowed for, places like the hospitals and certain emergency services areas where they've upgraded those streets. But I still think that not every street has been fixed properly, and not every street gets fixed fairly. And it's, we can launch a repair dashboard. I think that's something I'd like to do. Expand sidewalks, prioritize lighting equity, and fix drainage in neglected areas as well too. I think that when it comes to roads, especially coming back to the community center, right? North Street is still terrible, but we're going to have this fancy community center. That's great, cool, but North Street's still messed up. And Jesus did mention it, that him and the mayor have already talked about that that's something that they want to address. But also, how do they know he's going to be in office then? Maybe I win in May. That's not something that somebody should be talking about already when you know that you're in the ballot and somebody is challenging you. It's not right. So, how would I address it? I wouldn't probably invest in a community center. I'd probably invest in the roads itself. But they said they got a plan, but I'd like to see it. I'd like to see how transparent it is, and I would like to see what it actually accomplishes. Because a lot of those south side streets are not taken care of. None of those things are built to last. They are meant to be updated, and they haven't touched them in forever.
Thank you.
My man.
All right, thank you. So we're getting now to the end where we're looking at our online questions and then questions that we have on the cards. So here's one that I didn't put on the thing that came in. How much has the city spent on renovations and capitalization to the community center in the last 15 years?
Dwayne, you want to take this one? Well, actually, Dwayne would have more of an answer because that's one of those things where I have not looked at those numbers because I haven't been on the council. I've looked at the fiscal budget for 2025, 2024, 2023, but I have not seen any specific numbers that say community center has had these upgrades. Now, I think a quick Google search could probably help you find that, help somebody find that. And I think also too, there's a lot of utilities that'll look at these budget initiatives and look at these budgets and kind of break it down for you. But who knows, honestly. I think it's one of those things where, like I said, I'm not against the renovations with the community center. Maybe we do need to invest in some way to allow people to, have a reason to come to Victoria. But I believe that, they probably haven't really, look at the benches that are in the community center. They're kind of run down as well. And I think some of them are older than me, and I'm 30, so I don't know.
30's so old. All right, I think that's all of our questions. Ladies, do we have any more that came in with the cards? I think that's all, okay. Jacob, we'd ask that you move on to your closing statement, please, sir.
Oh, okay, all right, we're wrapping this up.
Yeah, I had a question for him.
All right, what's up?
Sure.
It's not on that paper, it's not on that yellow paper?
Okay, go ahead, sir.
No, I want you to get that yellow paper that I wrote it on.
Well,
y'all just threw it away?
oh, no, they're saying pink is for the mayor. So it may have been on the wrong part. But go ahead, tell me what's your question.
Okay. Victoria Chamber of Commerce hired the city manager. The city manager is a member of the Victoria Chamber of Commerce. The mayor is a member of the Victoria Chamber of Commerce. Do you see a conflict of interest?
Are you referring to the city council?
Yes. I'm referring to the mayor, the city manager.
Yeah, but I'm saying, so the city council, basically, they hire the city manager, or they vote.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Somebody took him in the back room and told him, we'll give you $200,000 a year
Okay, sir,
if you just say yes.
we'd ask you to.
So I'm telling you, from the code of ordinance, the municipal court, right, they are the ones that put a vote to who is going to be the city manager.
Okay, well, do you see
Now-
a conflict of interest?
I'm sorry?
Everybody's a member of the Victoria Chamber of Commerce. You don't see a conflict of interest then?
Also too, I mean, like Dwayne is on certain boards and commissions as well too, but I don't believe the Victoria Chamber of Commerce have had a actual, dealing with getting him voted in. Now, as far as like behind the scenes, I don't know. Maybe things did talk, but I don't think that's I don't think it's something that we should be worried about, because it's one of those things where I think Jesus' track record is that he came from Corpus, I believe, or Kingsville, correctly. So I'm not sure what the initiative of what you're saying is, but I know for a fact that it's codified that the city council is the one that appoints the city manager.
Okay, the city manager comes in, he hires 2 people. Why?
He has 2 people?
He hired 2 people. They're 2 assistant city managers.
Yeah, that's part of his job as city manager. He basically hires senior staff, whether that's I believe it's finance, fire. There's a couple of them. I literally just looked at this the other day. The communications as well. So they have a staff underneath them that other staff addresses. Now I feel your passion. I feel your love for the city. I love that. And I enjoy that, and I know what you're talking about. But this is also the problem, right? That we have to address of what does a city government actually do? I can't tell you how many times people have told me that, what are you going to do about the schools? And it's like, I'm not running for VISD. I'm running for city government. I'm not trying to do any other job other than what is entailed to me. And I think we have to.
That's time on that.
I think we have to address it, though. I think we do have to inform people of what their options are.
Hey, wait a minute, hey!
Sir, if you have additional questions.
We need a sidewalk.
Sir,
on
if you have
Fort Lockett
additional
Highway.
questions for the
People
candidate,
get
can you
killed,
please
people
ask them?
get
We'll
ran
talk
over.
after.
If you can please address them after. Thank you, sir. All right, Jacob, we can move on now to your 2-minute closing statement.
I'm fired up now, man. I feel it. I feel the energy, and I love the love. I think that when we have people that are passionate about their city and they want to see change and they want to have that transparency, they want people to know how these things were done, right? I think that is highly important, and I believe that the city government has not done a great job in leading those things. I believe that, 90% of people have not had a say in how their city is run. And that's what I want to change, and my demographic is the worst for it, we were one of the worst, right? It's like 43 people from 18 to 24, 24 to 29 is like 200, and then you have people who between 55 and 75 that encompass, I think, 3/4 of the vote. 4,000 people came out to the last local election, and over half of them were 55 plus, and I think my demographic needs to get out there and needs to have their voice heard. And so I believe that it's not really about who you want to be mayor. It's about getting involved. It's about understanding what's on the line and what you can do for your city. That's why I'm up here. There's a million other people who could do the same exact thing if they just signed a letter, if they just signed the ability to say, you don't even got to raise donations. You can literally just run for office because you feel like you care and you feel like you want to make a difference. And that's what I'm here for, because I want people to vote. I want people to come out and be involved in their city government or VISD or even with the county correctly. I think that people have to understand what abilities they have and that they have the power. The people have the power, not the city government. Nobody has the power but the people. And we're letting that power slip because we're not showing up, we're not doing our part, and we're not informing others. And then especially with the community, right, we need to get that message out.
Thank you so much. Let's give Jacob a big hand. Thank you, Jacob. I want to also thank our fantastic moderators. Let's hear it again for Mr. Sean Akers of Victoria Advocate, Ms. Glinda Nickel of the newly energized League of Women Voters. Not shout out to them. This wasn't a huge shout. We want to thank her especially for that new voter guide. If you didn't get a copy, it's back there. It's also on their website. You need more information. It's really, really excellent. We are so blessed to have this organization in our community. But let's hear it for our students, Ms. Caitlin Lopez. We can clap louder for our students. Come on. And Ms. Desiree Ferguson, thank you. I leave you with one final thought from President Washington that he gave us in his farewell address. I would use this as the same standard when we're thinking about our own voting. Let us raise a standard that the wise and honest can repair. The rest is in the hands of God. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming tonight. I hope you found this helpful. To learn more about the league, please go to that website, scan that QR code. Some important dates that are also on the league's page. Make sure you see those dates for early voting. Thank you all very much. God bless and good night. We're going to do one more photo advocate. Okay.